Hello, friend. Season
4.
The Mystical American Patriot Society is transmitting to you from a high desert encampment on the frontier of our agrarian hoplite republic. This is a variety program for happy warriors who are getting some seriously bad vibes from the deranged post-Christian technocracy. Grab a tankard of yak's milk and join us by the campfire as Sumo and Cavi return to shake your surveillance, expel your parasites, and generally have a good time. Are you ready? Stand by.
Mystical American Patriot Society. Now available in 3 dimensions.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Cavi. How are you?
I'm good.
Excellent. How am I coming through? Am I coming through okay?
You are coming through very good now.
Good. Okay. We were having some issues, as we always do, as we always must. It's a law of the universe. You may be wondering why we are coming to you not in 3 dimensions at this episode, because I am currently on the Earth's surface. I am not on the orbital podcasting platform doing a reconnaissance mission, and I do not have access to the full range of the podcasting suite of abilities. I'm operating in limited mode here on the surface, doing some very important recon work for the future of MAPS missions and sniffing out potential moles. So we're doing it. I'm communicating with Cavi over the teleometer instead of the normal on the normal bands and frequencies, and we will be back soon, I hope, in the podcasting platform. But we didn't want to leave you hanging because there's very important things that need to be discussed. For example, Cavi, how are you with Trump giving President Bill Clinton oral sex?
Didn't that get disproved already or something?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's the thing. That's the beauty of it. Is that
yes? I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, but I'm also not surprised it was disproved. And I don't know. It's like Schrodinger's blowjob.
Yeah, it could have happened. You know what? Here's the thing. I have no doubt in my mind that Trump would have or could have had oral sex with William Clinton, because as I will explain. But what I want to focus on is the curious. We haven't touched on this because I want to see how it played out. The curious case of the flip-flop of the Epstein files. Have you noticed this?
Yeah, it's super weird because they keep going back and forth. They're going to release them. They're not going to release them. Trump is in them. Trump is not in them.
Trump is in them. Trump is not in them.
Makes no sense.
It makes no sense. But here's the flip flop I was talking about was the sides that this issue has taken. So prior to 2020 and 4, the right's rallying cry was Jeffrey Epstein is a international sex criminal leading a secret underground ring of pedophiles that control the government and various other governments through blackmail, and it may or may not be also tied in with Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency. And this was the rallying cry. Trump and JD Vance campaigned on this in no small part. They were like, we're going to release the Epstein files. It's going to get out there. We're going to do it. We're going to uncover Dan Bongino, the podcaster that's for some reason now in the FBI, and Kash Patel, the Indian named money. We're all like, this is what they built their whole thing on. And then after they got in there, Kash Patel came on TV and looked like he'd seen a ghost. And he said, I don't know what you're talking. I don't know what. Don't ask me. I'm just the head of the FBI. I couldn't know anything. There's no way for me to get any access to files. That was basically his defense. And now what has happened, because Trump and company decided after they were in that they were not going to worry about the Epstein files. And in fact, they don't even exist anymore. They don't exist. I know that was the thing we campaigned on, but they don't exist. They don't exist anymore. And very, very rapidly, whiplash levels of rapidly. Although I'm used to that now. If you're going to be on this roller coaster, if you're going to be on Mr. Toad's wild ride, you have to get used to the whiplash. The right was like, this is a stupid issue. Dead issue. Move on. It's not something worth thinking about. It's not something worth talking about. It's all fake. They're just trying to, and now the left has to pretend that they care at all about pedophilia and international sex crimes and all of these things. And it's all pretend, just like, as you now see, it was all pretend on the right. It is merely a gambit for power in the eyes of most people. No one means anything they say. For example, Kathy, have you followed Mr. Steve Bannon, and who was in Trump's inner circle and cabinet for a while, and his Epstein ties?
No, I haven't heard about his Epstein ties.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I haven't heard anything from him for a while.
Well, he's been laying quiet because he was part of this is the big cover up thing and whatever. And some of the Epstein files have been released by so forth and so on people. And there are some of those include text messages between the Apple account tied to Jeffrey Epstein, and that's all we can really say. It is Jeffrey Epstein's Apple account. It could have been some totally other person using his computer, I guess, right? But it seems unlikely. And one Mr. Steve Bannon, who was all like, the war room, I'm Mr. Meh. They were exchanging text messages during the first Trump presidency. And Epstein was giving him advice about how to handle the media and come off looking better. And doesn't that make you think? In fact, I can read them to you. We have these text messages and they've been published, and I'll read them to you. I took off early. They're talking about when Steve Bannon appeared on the news. I think it was CNN. I took off early so I could land in time to watch. All good, Epstein wrote. Bannon responded, they went for an hour instead of 30 minutes, showing the entire hour over multiple platforms. Attaboy, Epstein says. Epstein then teases Bannon about his appearance. You look so clean cut next to him, I thought I turned on figure skating channel by accident. To which Bannon says, my come hither look. Epstein joked, better than the usual come Hitler look. But this is again, this is allegedly, according to people that if there are Epstein files that exist, those that have been released, this is in them. I don't know if
We
it's
have
true.
all these texts and emails now. Like, how do we not even know they're just made up or AI
Exactly.
generated?
You can't know. You can. One thing I say, I do not think Bannon has made any attempt to deny the truth of these, which is a tell. But he's made no attempt whatsoever, to my knowledge, to be like, no, that isn't me. Bannon then says he has to appear clean, not sloppy, for his interview on the quote Soy Boy network, to which the convicted sex offender replies, closer to Toy Boy with a winky face. Is this not the gayest thing in the world, my friends? Is Steve Bannon not the most homosexual man in existence for texting his come hither look to Jeffrey Epstein and receiving back a winky face? Right? And I'm trying to get you guys to see something because a lot of you still don't get it, and I wish you did. A lot of you still don't get it, and you're going to get it. I'm going to force feed you this. It's not going to be fun. You're going to be mad at me like a toddler taking their medicine, but you need it, right? So, Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein are in a flirtatious text affair where Epstein is coaching him on how to appear better. This goes on for a while. Later, they talk about how to meet in person. He gives a bulleted list of things to talk about. One thing is that he says, Epstein says he has a list. Says 1, Peter Thiel's in town. Then someone says 2, 4, the mooch, being Scaramucci, is still in contact with Ivanka, has reached out to me and asked how he can re-engage with you. I've only met him once. Odd, Epstein wrote. So Scaramucci is using Epstein as his his liaison to Steve Bannon. I need to get in touch with Bannon. I know who I'll go through. Jeffrey Epstein. Right? By the way, I'm in. If you want to visit under the cover, I'm in New York tonight through Saturday. If you want to visit under the cover of darkness or breakfast tomorrow, if you like. Epstein wrote this on August 23rd, the year before he died. Bannon replied, do you have access that's not the front door? They have 24/7 surveillance on you. This is so gay. It's so homosexual and weird. And it's not even about being gay. It's about the public persona that's trying to be put forward and then what they're actually doing. Right? And what I keep trying to tell people is that this is how power works. There is no such thing as a righteous government, which so many of you people want. It will never, ever, 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 ever happen and has never existed. It has never existed. And if you think it does, you just haven't read enough people writing from that time about what was going on. You just have never read enough people. And so this is the kind of thing. Another thing, for example, Mr. J.D. Vance. Do you know how J.D. Vance became the J.D. Vance we all know and love, Cavi? Do you know J.D.
I don't know anything about him actually until he became vice president. This was the first I ever heard of him.
Okay, well, that's great because this is a perfect example. If people want power, right? If people want power, the great folly, the great folly is of people on the right is they say, well, because here's how it works. This is how it works. It's ratchet release, just like on a little ratchet rope that you put down on the back of a truck. You ratchet it, and you release it, and you ratchet again, and you. The left wing is the ratchet stage, right, where you crank up whatever insanity you want to do. The left is in power, quote unquote, and that's the time when you make everything tighter, more ridiculous, more degenerate, more absurd. Then the right comes along and says, "Stop it!" Right. But all that happens is you release the crank and it gives everyone time to acclimate to the new settings. That's all that happens. That's all that happens. The right never, ever goes the other direction. Because now what they do is now we're at the point where, do you see, the left is in power. Jeffrey Epstein, ratchet, look, and now it's like, well, I guess international pedophilia rings isn't so bad. Don't stop talking about it. Stop talking about it, just like it's happened before. Before it was like, the left would get in and be like, everyone has to be gay, gay, gay. And then the right is innocent, and then the right gets into power, and they're like, well, I guess, yeah, all of our people are also gay. And everyone's like, well, as long as you're not a pedophile. And they come in there, pedophile, pedophile. And they're like, okay, well, I guess that's fine too. And then you go, ratchet release, ratchet release. And the great folly, the tremendous folly of people on the right, particularly the reactionary right, is to say, well, if such is the case, then we must go into the loosen phase of this. My metaphor is stretching beyond the point of, but we must we must reverse the process. We cannot just sit here and let people acclimatize to the insanity. We have to drive the ship in the other direction. But this is not possible. This is simply it's simply an impossibility. It cannot happen. To be in the ship at all, to care about the ship, is to participate in the ship's agenda. Politics does not matter. It only exists to entangle, ensnare, and entrap you. That's it. It exists to side yourself to keep you away from God. That's all. That's every time you give it your energy, it wins. That's it. The only winning move against the machine is not to play. Because like Mr. J.D. Vance, right? J.D. Vance is the vice president in part because of his long-running relationship with a certain Peter Thiel. Are you familiar with Peter Thiel, Kathy?
The Antichrist?
The guy, yeah, maybe.
The guy who was accused of being the Antichrist and then did the totally natural behavior of doing a tour of talks about how he's not the Antichrist.
Yeah, that guy. Exactly that guy. The guy who's a tech billionaire, who's behind many of the things that you allegedly on the right are against, like social credit scores and the vaccine, all of the stuff, the agendas, all of them, like the dehumanization projects, transhumanism. He funds a lot of it. He funds a lot of it. And Mr. Vance is in the White House right now because he's backed by Peter Thiel. And this is 100% provable. We know it. Vance and Thiel's relationship goes back to 2011 at least, when they met following a talk Thiel gave at Yale Law School, that Vance characterized as the most significant moment of my time at the institution. The most significant moment of my time was the time I wrote, because Vance had been planning for a career pivot outside of law school following the talk, noting that Thiel was, quote, this is what Vance said about Thiel, possibly the smartest person he'd ever met. And that Thiel's Christian faith, remember, Thiel on the surface says he's a Christian.
Oh, then he couldn't be the Antichrist.
Right. Vance said, Thiel's Christian faith, quote, defied the social template I had constructed, that dumb people were Christians and smart ones were atheists. Thiel later became a, quote, pretty good mentor to Vance, with Vance making the switch to venture capital and joining the Thiel co-founded Mithril Capital Corporation in 2015 as a partner. So just this guy from Appalachia, just this dude who gets into Yale for whatever reason, has no connections, whatever. Peter Thiel, billionaire, venture capitalist, tech guy, after he gets out of law school, he says, hey, you know what? Come be a partner with me. Come be a partner in my, come just take a lot of the property come take a lot of the profits of this giant corporation I've built with billions of dollars just because. Just because, guys. That's what people do, right? Venture capitalists that make billions of dollars, they invite you in to their corporation, not as an employee, but as a partner. Just because, you know? And this is how he gets into politics. Peter Thiel helped him get his memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, published and distributed around and all this stuff. None of it is anything outside of, this is what it's going to have to work. So this is all the people that want the quote unquote righteous government, the Christian nationalists, the reactionaries, and all these people that think that you can turn the ship around, which is the great folly that I try to disabuse people of all the time. If you think you can turn the ship around, okay, what that's going to entail is you're going to have sex with Peter Thiel. That's what it is. You're going to have sex with Peter Thiel. Or do you think he just gave him the partnership for nothing? Peter Thiel, known gay vampire, gay Silicon Valley tech venture capitalist vampire, by which I mean he was very, very interested in and perhaps funded and perhaps participated in the procedure of taking young blood out of young people. Specifically, they called them blood boys, quote unquote. Young boys, maybe prepubescent, I don't know, but certainly not older than teenagers, taking the blood out of them and putting them in old people as a means of life extension, hopefully towards transhuman immortality. An actual gay vampire, right? Actually very interested in actual vampirism. Okay. He's the guy that you come up. JD Vance, Mr. Catholic reactionary gamer bro, whom everyone on the right is supposed to love. He took one look at billionaire gay vampire, who, as you pointed out, Cavi, famously stumbled over gotcha questions in his interviews with Ross Duat. Gotcha questions such as, should humanity continue to exist? He was like, I don't know. He couldn't. That's a hard question. Don't give him. That is anyone would fumble that question. That's different. It's a gotcha question. Should humanity continue to exist?
Well, it depends on how you define humanity.
It depends on how
Jordan Peterson approach.
You define humanity and how you define exist. And yeah, it depends on all these things that we couldn't possibly know. You know, who knows? Who knows if you should do that? Who knows if you should continue to exist? All right, hold on. I'm having issues here. Oh, I think they're after me. Oh, here we go. Okay, I found my cable. All right, we're all good. Okay, yeah, he famously stumbled over, should humanity continue to exist? And the other gotcha question: are you the Antichrist? To which Thiel couldn't come up with an answer to on the spot. You know, as we all would struggle with. Should humanity continue to exist? And are you the Antichrist? Two very difficult questions to answer without significant preparation. This guy, Mr. Vance, Mr. Vance took one look at, are you the Antichrist? Should humanity continue to exist? I don't know. Gay vampire billionaire. And said, this is who I'm converting to Christianity for. This is my guy. You're gonna have sex with Peter Thiel. Okay? Just be used to it. If you are wanting to right the ship, the way you do that is you have sex with Peter Thiel. Right? That's the way it happens. Either you take my advice and exit the realm of politics altogether, realizing it is a sham. Or B, prepare yourself for a lifelong roller coaster on the outskirts of politics, like where you follow it and you go through periods of depression where you lose, followed by feelings of euphoria over fake victories that really accomplish nothing. Or C, you have sex with Peter Thiel and gain power. That's the only options. There's no route for any of you out there to the White House that doesn't involve having sex with Peter Thiel or someone like him, like Bill Clinton or Donald Trump or something. You're gonna have to. Have you guys learned nothing? Have you learned nothing from the Bohemian Grove stuff? All the stuff we talked about over the years. There is no. What do you think's going to happen? You think the deep state's just going to be like, oh well, I guess they won an election. We better let him in there. We'll just and walk away. It's not. This is the cope of believing that people are good. This is the cope. Are you familiar? Let me tell you a story, Cavi. On my neighborhood that I used to live in before I moved into space, there was a lady at the end of the street who was like a neighborhood witch. Have you ever had a neighborhood witch? It's an interesting thing to have. Everyone should have one.
No, not in my neighborhood, but
Really?
I know I've known witchy people.
Mm-hmm. Now, when I say this, I don't mean that she practices witchcraft or Wiccanism or something, although she might. I don't know what she does in her personal life. But I mean that she is a recluse, sits at the end of the road, and is alternating violently between, most of the time she's sweet. Most of the time you pass by, she's the little wave, hello. Maybe she even bakes some cookies and brings them over or something, right? But however, a few years before I moved to space, there was some people walking with a stroller, a mother and a baby in a stroller, and we may have had a small dog with them. I don't remember. And they were walking down the road, and they stepped on the grass of her front lawn, which she was very careful to manicure. And this old woman burst from the door of the house like Achilles onto the battlefield. Door flying open, just straight out down the little stairs, with a can of Raid wasp spray, like the stuff you spray at wasps to kill them. And she sprays it in the face of this young mother, screaming, "Get off my lawn!" Okay? But most of the time she's sweet. But she does have these occasional, once every bit in a while, outburst of attacks with neurotoxins. You know, and every neighborhood needs one. Two is too many. But one keeps the spice there. It's like salt. You need a little bit. Not two neighborhood witches is too many, but you should have at least one. And this week I've been arguing with our, and I say this with all love, our group chat neighborhood witch, Tani from Australia. Have you seen those, Kathy? Our arguings back and forth.
Those giant texts.
Those giant blocks of text where we have been arguing about, and I say this again, Tani, because Tani is a very sweet lady who occasionally goes into attack mode. She's very sweet. She's from Australia. I think she's even still missing a tooth, so she fits the witchy archetype very well. She's an herbalist, very witch adjacent, and she's very sweet, but occasionally goes into attack mode, and that's good. We need that. If we had two of them, the position of neighborhood witch in the map sock community has been filled. But I only mean that in like the sweet witch that occasionally attacks people. If you are like a crystal lady, we still have openings for crystal for women that come in and know crystals or whatever. There are other kinds of witch positions still to be open, but this particular position has been filled. We do not need a second. Two would be too many, right? But we do need this one to keep us on our toes. And she was very upset with me because I was saying, as I've said before on this show, people choose the empire. And I think they do. And she was specifically mad about Australia, her homeland, where she hails from. And she was like, America has foisted all this stuff on us. And yes, they have. They have. But also, Australians welcome. Like I 100% believe that Tani and her group fought against American cultural imperialism. But that, when I went to, have you been to Australia, Cavi? I think I've asked you this before.
Australia, no.
Okay. When I went to Australia, I got there, my bags don't come on the conveyor belt, right? 17-hour flight across the Pacific Ocean, luggage is who knows where. No idea. No in the world knows where it is. Right? So, and I go to the counter, and it's the middle of the morning or night. I don't remember. It was a long flight. And I say to the guy, look, I don't know where my bag is. And his response is, no worries. No worries, mate. No worries. And we'll do something. He's not fixing it. But he just says no. Then I go and complain some more to some other person, and she says, no worries. No worries. We'll get. And then there's like several, and then the hotel I wanted to stay at, they also have a problem, and they say no worries. And everyone there in Australia again, much love that I encountered, had an attitude of no worries about nothing. And that's a great way to go through life in many cases, but it does not lend me to believe that they were people that got overly up in arms and active against, say, the encroach of McDonald's. Maybe they did. Maybe they did. But from what I saw of them there, they would have been like, oh yeah, the Macazé. No worries. And then they'd gone and get drunk and watch the footy. Because that's what people do everywhere. We've seen this play out over and over again. And what very few people are prepared to admit is that what we have is that more or less what the people, because the idea that everyone, like the left likes to say this and the right, everyone likes to say this. The government is corrupt. The system is corrupt, but the people are good. The people are good. My people are good. You know, this is what I argue with Smokestack with all the time. Like, no, people, it's the system. As evidence, when the script flips, they all support the gay vampire and the pedophile. There is nothing to them. They are made of shadows. There's nothing there. There is zero there. It's like the here's how it happens with quote unquote Native Americans. I don't like that term because many of them were only here like 500 years before white people. It wasn't like a crazy thing. But so Native Americans and or the Aboriginals in Australia or anybody, right? What they all say with their mouth. Here's what they say. The Lakota are a great example of this. There are Lakota people in the Wyoming-ish area, and they like to go, or maybe I'm sorry, the Montana-ish area. And what they like to do is they like to get on social media and flip off the Mount Rushmore, and they like to talk about how the land is stolen and how the white man is terrible, and we were living in peace and love with Mother Nature, and there was no war, and so forth and so on until white people got here. And then when you ask them, when they ever come up, like, well, would you like to be your own country and have your own? Would you like us to just give you this piece of land back and you can just be there? It was like they just melt away. Well, no, we don't want that. Just like in Britain, when the Scots have for decades, my entire life, the decade and before, and many moons before, complained about their quote unquote oppression at the hands of the English. This giant country, giant in UK standards, which has so many more people than them. I think, and it is quite a lot more people. I think England has like 60 million, and Scotland is more like 5, 6, 7. It's like 10 times as much in England. And they're like, they're making us, they do all the Westminster controls us, and they're all this stuff, and we could just be Braveheart, William Wallace, blue face paint. And then in 2014, they were given the option to vote to leave, and they said, no, we don't actually want to leave, though. No, right? Like the Hawaiians, they do the same thing. The Hawaiians are always up in arms about mainlanders and the white people and all this stuff. Do you want to be your own? Well, no, we don't want to. Any independence movement has never taken off and never will, because the money is so good and the protections are so good and the access to American markets are so good. And that's what everyone wants. And what they do not want, if black people in America actually wanted self-determination, what they could do very, very easily is they could have a movement where they all moved to, say, Georgia or Alabama or Mississippi. And then they would instantaneously have a supermajority, and they could just say, okay, well, this is our space and we're making it. They do not want to do that, though, because on the one, they kind of all know it would be shit, right? And on the two, where they get their this is their whole political power comes from being an aggrieved minority. If they were not an aggrieved minority, what are they going to talk about? And it's not a black thing. It's a thing black people do, but the Native Americans do it, the Scottish people do it, the Hawaiians do it, and to an extent, the Australians do it, right? It is a thing where people, the Irish are so bad at this. The Irish the same thing, and then they get their independence, right? And what do? Or they throw off the yoke of the British and they say, please, America, step on us. Because they do not, the empire has benefits. Empire has tremendous benefits, which is why people continually, that's where it gets its power. If there's not enough guns to go around to do it just by threatening everyone with a bullet, it happens by, well, it has, we can give you a lot of things that you couldn't get elsewhere. And people say, okay. And they're willing to, every football watching bro that complains about how woke the NFL is, they still tune in and watch it. They would prefer, sure, that their players not be made to wear pink and breast cancer awareness on everything, on every other commercial, and like waving rainbow flags. They would prefer that, yes, but they're not going to turn it off. Right? And that's what you actually, it's always a choice. It's always a choice. And given the choice, people will choose to have sex with the gay vampire and ignore the pedophilia rings if it gives them what they want, if it gives them power. Because here's what they actually want. And this is proved out by how they behave. They do not want change. They want the status quo and to feel righteous. Right? They want to be able to have a performative rebellion that's not actually going to do anything. Let's riot in the streets. Let's protest. Let's do this and that. Let's wave our flags. Let's flip off the Mount Rushmore. Let's burn the American flag. Let's burn the Bible. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. Not going to do anything, right? It achieves zero. But right, it's like I'm waving my communist flag. Now I'm going to go have my iPhone and charge people for my emotional labor, because they want the status quo. They want the benefits plus the moral, being able to feel morally righteous because you gave performative opposition to it. So it's not my fault. Listen, I just live under capitalism, and so I have to reap the benefits. If I had my druthers, though, it would be a communist utopia, of course. But right now, I'm a mother, and I have to charge my husband for emotional labor, the most capitalistic thing possible. Because, but it's not my fault. I'm against it, even though I participate in it all the time. I am so against it. You see, this is what everyone's doing. And this is what the system knows that you want to do. The system is not as stupid as you imagine. The system is actually quite smart. And the perfect product is the system plus your performative opposition to it, so you can feel self-right. The perfect product is self-righteousness in your sin. Do you see how that works? It is a tool of the devil. And that is why you cannot beat it by trying to change it. Because the whole thing, there is no one that wants it to change. 0 people want it to change, roughly speaking. There are a handful of people that want it to change, but there are tremendous rounding error. I hope a lot of them are our listeners. In fact, I know they are, because a lot of our listeners are genuine. But do not have hope that most people are like you. This is what I fear for Tani. She has hope that a lot of people are like her and have high agency and have a good moral sense and try to do right by people. And that is simply not the case. That's simply not the case with most people. That's not who they are. And it's not a defense of the empire. It is like the empire is far more crafty than anyone gives it credit for, because what they're offering is not merely all the benefits of the empire, but one of the benefits of the empire is, and you get to pretend like you don't want it. How insidious is that? But that's what everyone actually wants. And you can tell, because anytime they're offered freedom, they say no. Anytime they're offered freedom, They say no, or anytime they're exposed with like, oh, well, you remember that thing you called out when the other side was doing it? Well, now your side's doing it. They go, meh, 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 I don't want to hear. No, no. I know Trump is saying that they're under Epstein files now after, but I'm sure he has. The same thing. It's the same thing the left does, and they just play you back and forth off each other. Back and forth, ratchet release, ratchet release, ratchet release. And as long as you're there, you're playing the game. And the only way to win is not to play. That's it. One of our other listeners go ahead.
Okay, so in Tani's defense, though.
Yeah, Tani makes a lot of good points. Yeah, go ahead.
What do you say about people who are like legitimately deceived? So take COVID, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all saw like immediately. Like I remember back in like March of 2020 talking to my parents and being like, they're gonna have forced vaccinations. They're gonna try to do it through your work, and like somehow I knew this back in March of 2020. But I have a lot of family members who totally just believed that this was like a real global pandemic, and why would the pharmaceutical companies, they make medicine to help you, so I'm gonna just do the completely normal thing and take the vaccine because that's what you got to do. We're in a public health emergency and we all got to do this. So
Right.
like they're legitimately deceived though.
Yes.
And like, because I bounce back and forth too, because like on some cases I'm like, how do you not see this? But then in the other case, like I see some of these people and it's like, well, no, they really don't. And like, you can't force them to.
Correct. And here is the answer to that question. It is written by a fellow named Jorg. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. It's George without a G, and I don't know how you pronounce that in Europe. Jorg Grodek. A man almost forgotten now. You see, I anticipated this very question. I anticipated it, and I already have a whole thing about an answer. Jorg Grodek, aka Peter Troll, not Peter Thiel, but Peter Troll. We owe a lot to Grodek. The 20th century, he's one of their unsung heroes. So much so that he invented the idea of the id, like ego and id, Freud stuff, really comes from Grodek. Grodek was a close associate and colleague of Freud, differed with Freud in many ways. And he scared Freud. He scared many people. Grodek looked like a goblin. His name sounds like a goblin, Grodek. He's a German man. He looked like a goblin. And this goes against my my general trend of physiognomy of don't trust people that look like goblins. However, the brilliant thing about Grodek and how he is trustworthy is that he knew he was a goblin. And he was not trying to deceive you about being a goblin. He's like, no, I am a goblin. And in fact, in his book called Das Buch vom S, the book of the it, IT. He originally called it the IT, using the the S, basically with the pronoun it in English, just like it. But Freud thought that was a bit too on the nose, so he changed it to id. But das Buch vom S, the book of the it. In that book, he writes under the pseudonym of Peter Troll. So he's saying, look, I'm a troll. I'm a troll person. I know I look like a goblin, and I'm embracing that. And in fact, I'm very goblin-like in my psychology and the things I'm going to write about, because this book is absolutely disgusting. I don't know that I can recommend anyone to read it. But everything that you ever thought Freud had talked about, which was weird about sexual complexes and the unconscious and stuff, Grodek was there first, and he was not shy about talking about it. He was very. This book is profoundly deep, but really at the same time gross. And Grodek was in a sense what Freud was afraid to become, where Freud was afraid to go. Because if you notice in the language, Freud called the unconscious the subconscious, meaning it's below. But Grodek called it simply the unconscious, or the it. because he exactly reversed that. He said, no, it's far above. How, in his was his words, he said, how could the mind, the conscious mind, the ego, be above the unconscious when the unconscious is what creates the mind? He said, your body, the unconscious is kind of like the body, right? All the processes going on in you have no conscious control over. He says this, when you're in the womb being put together, neither you nor your mother are doing any of it consciously, and yet you're growing all these things, and the mind grows out of the it. The brain grows out of the it. How on earth could the brain be higher than that which gave rise to it? And so he thought that actually the ego, what we consider ourselves, is a mask, a persona. Person means mask, by the way, if you didn't know that. Comes from the Greek personae, which is the masks they would wear during a dramatic performance. So when you say you're a genuine person, you're saying I'm a genuine fake, right? It's this, it's kind of the devil's funny like that. And so Grodek had, the thing about Grodek is he had full faith. This was what made him so interesting. Complete faith in the unconscious. He went about, in fact, and he considered what he was doing a form of Christian mysticism. He was a Lutheran. He was a Lutheran goblin man. And he was a doctor. He became a doctor at the behest of his father, who was also a doctor. But he found when he got to school that he did not like most of the things doctors had to do. He said, I did not have it in me to do the violence. I did not have the cruelty in me to become a doctor, because what I discovered is that what I intuited, he said, is that slightly under the surface of every surgeon is a man that just loves to cut people apart. And boy, if that isn't true. He said, there's a very slim, he said, society has given people that would love to hack up people with hatchets a way to do it in a praiseworthy manner. And that's not true of every surgeon, obviously, but if you've known surgeons, that's not untrue of it's true of some of them. He said they're sadistic people that just love, and don't think for a minute, guys, that all the like trans surgeries and stuff that have been, don't think people aren't getting off on that. Do not think for a second that a lot of the doctors and nurses involved aren't receiving extreme sexual pleasure from this kind of thing, and from all the other stuff. It is not. And Grodek was very familiar with this. Grodek ran a health salon in Baden-Baden. I don't know why they were called salons back then, but they were. And it was basically a clinic that you could go to when you were sick, and you would spend several weeks to a month there or whatever, which was not an uncommon style of practicing medicine at the time. And he specialized in psychoanalysis and massage. And when I say massage, that at the time more encompassed massage, yes, but also kind of chiropractic realignment and also physical therapy. Like, it was not a gentle massage in most cases. Like, it was very, well, the way it's described is a very rigorous, sounds painful massage, but massage and psychotherapy. And people, and this is the brilliant thing, listen to this, people that went there asking for massage received psychotherapy, and people that went there and said they needed psychotherapy received massage. And isn't that exactly what it had to happen? Isn't that exactly correct? I'm going there because I need massage. He said, no, you need psychotherapy. I need my brain looked at. No, you need to be rubbed. You need, that's exactly correct. And Grodek, so he began practicing this, and he said, there's a brilliant quote. I'm going to see if I can find it. He viewed his psychoanalysis as an honest attempt to fulfill Christ's commandment of judge not. He said, this is what I'm trying to do. He said, this is his quote, "It is only when people are convinced that you have no thought of blame, but are seriously and totally carrying out the commandment, judge not, that they will open a little the portal of their souls. It is only when people are convinced that you have no thought whatsoever of blame, but are seriously carrying out the commandment, judge not, that they will open a little the portal of their souls." And so he said, if you ever want to actually know somebody, to get to know somebody, you must be willing to hear everything about them in all its lurid details and accept it, right? which is a radical thing to say. It's a radical thing to say. But by this process, he had many patients in for psychoanalysis and therapy. And he knew them, he developed quite a rapport with them, and they told him, and he recorded these anonymously in this book, The It, the most lurid, gross, deviant actions, fantasies, and dreams. So things they actually did, things they desperately wanted to do, and things that were just intrusive thoughts that they didn't know why they were coming. I mean, it just makes your skin crawl to read it. And he encountered this from people from all walks of life. Professionals, blue-collar workers, women, men, adolescents. And he had a unique gift to let people open up to him because he truly, he viewed himself as a goblin, like I said, as a troll. And he said, I'm not above anybody. And he openly talks about in his book, in the first chapter of his book, all of his own person. He's like, listen, however gross people have been, I know all that grossness is in me. I'm a troll man, you know? And he really gets into this. It's disgusting even to think about. I have some quotes pulled up. Maybe I'll go through a couple of them. I don't want this show to become X-rated, however. But it's very what to say? It's very it's in a way dark. It's in a way very dark. Like, for example, he had women come into him and they were very upset, and he finally, after weeks of talking with them and assuring them that, you know, there was no judgment here or whatever, they would confess, like, look, when I was birthing my children, it gave me tremendous sexual pleasure, and now when I look at them, and it's like, ugh, you know, it's like, that's really. And you know, his thought was like, well, you know, I mean, the sexual nerve endings are in the same location. It's not like a problem that you had to receive that and you can, you know, let it go and all this, but things people would never admit to in most people, their family, their friends, their priestly confessors. He got to admit to him and work through it. You know, and you're talking about incest actions and fantasies. We're talking about weird ways people masturbated, their interactions with animals that were not wholesome. It's weird stuff, right? That they either did or desperately wanted to do, or fantasized wanting to do, or so forth and so on. And through this process, Roddick found that by getting people to talk about these things, suddenly, he became convinced of two things. He said, one, the it is extremely powerful. The id, the unconscious, not the sub. He would call it the superconscious, is extraordinarily powerful, and is responsible for a lot of things that we think are fate or just accidents. Not all, but a lot. And two, he said, people know far more than they know they know. And people are, when people say they did not know, very often I look at them and I see them and I know that in a few weeks' time, after we have developed our rapport, they will break down in tears and tell me they knew all along. But they had hid it from themselves. And this goes to how people are deceived, but not all the way through. And the deception only works in part because you want it, right? And I know that sounds very callous. I'm not saying that's true in every case, but it is true in a lot of cases. There is genuine deception. But if you can't see through, for example, a man like J.D. Vance, and this is all public knowledge, right? And as I said that to people about J.D. Vance's origin story, many of them will have never heard that, much like you. And though you have a valid excuse, you're not very into politics and you're not American, so it doesn't matter.
But I'm also not surprised. I expected it would be something like that.
Right.
For all politicians.
Right.
Just by default.
a lot of people are going to be very surprised by that. But here's the thing. It was public knowledge all along. You could have looked it up at any time. You did not. You were willfully blind to it. You would have looked it up about your opponent. Do you see? But you wanted to turn a blind eye. That's why the symbol is the one eye, because you want to turn a blind eye. That's why it's at the top of the dollar bill. That's why it's there. All of the power, all of it, comes from you turning a blind eye. When in the Bible and in other things, the way that you, and this is exactly what Groddick was doing, the way that you overcome evil is you look at it. That's it. You just look at it. That's the serpent put on the pole in the wilderness, right? All the people are poisoned by serpents. And what is the solution? Well, they cast a serpent of bronze. I think it's bronze. And they put it on a pole up in the middle of the camp. And anyone that looks at it is cured of their poison. And that's once you're willing to look at it, the sin goes away. It can only thrive in the darkness. But you're not willing to look at it, because Groddick said the reason you don't remember your earliest years of life as a baby, an infant, is the same reason you don't remember your dreams, because there's too much truth in it and you don't want to look at it. And that is a very profound idea. He says, when you're dreaming, if you can remember your dreams, everything that's wrong with your life is right there and exactly what to do about it. But you forget them the moment you wake up, because that's scary. I don't want to admit to that. I don't want to think about that being me. That weird sex dream I had, that was just a random something. That's not something I actually want. That weird murderous fantasy, that's not, what wildness is that? Not me. And Groddick said, no, that is you. And it's trying to tell you something. It's trying to tell you who you actually are. How do you feel about this so far, Cavi? I have to do my my routine maintenance for a second.
I don't disagree, but again, like, here's another example. When I was a kid, we had the food pyramid, and my parents didn't know any better, so they thought it was completely healthy to feed me 20 servings of bread and pasta and whatever every day. And now they know better, because there's research and people have figured it out, and that the food pyramid is a disaster. But back then, like, nobody could have figured out that research on their own. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have any of these things with people helping them figure that out, and they just didn't know any better. So they were deceived, but it's not like they were purposely deceiving themselves here. They just didn't know any better.
Well, I mean, like I said, I agree with you. There is truth in that. There's truth in that viewpoint. However, there's also truth in the viewpoint. They could look around at everyone being sick and be like, well, that can't be too right. They're telling me this is how we're supposed to eat, and everyone around us keeps getting fatter. It's the same thing with most of medicine, or most of the things. People, there's like, well, here's all this medicine and stuff, and people aren't getting better, and so it's like, is this right?
Yeah, and this is kind of like one thing that I always bounce back and forth on is, do I cut people some slack?
You absolutely do. Yeah.
Everybody's like had a different, like if my life circumstances had been different, I could be a normie just like everyone else. But on the other hand, like, some things are so obvious. It's like, have you not figured this out yet?
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of bounce back and forth between the two poles there, and I'm not really sure where to fall.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question, but I don't think people are truly deceived, but in another way they're not. In another way, it's super obvious. In another way, of course, the Earth isn't moving, right? You're told, like, you're spinning around and all these things, and you're flying through the universe, but yet everything is perfectly still, and you say, okay. That's why I keep harping on that. You say okay because it's a thing that's objectively against your experience. There is nothing in your lived experience that would suggest that you're hurtling through space doing all these rotations, and there's no movement at all, and you're like, I guess so. And that is it. It's an abandonment of your own agency and ability to say, wait a minute. Right? That's kind of what it is. And so Groddick became He's actually the father of what we call psychosomatic illness and that whole theory. And he went very far in this. He thought basically almost all diseases were psychosomatic at some level. Now, if you ingested arsenic, it was that psychosomatic. Well, no, and yes. This is a great anecdote from him. He said people would come in with broken legs to my health salon, and I would put a splint on, bandage their leg, prescribe them physical therapy exercises, and then while I was giving them massage, sometimes I would ask them, "Now, why did you choose to break your leg?" And how did he get this idea? Well, he got it from he was talking with many women. He starts this book when he's writing as Peter Troll or Patrick Troll, I don't remember. And he says, because he's pretending as he's a troll writing it to this young lady that's studying medicine. And he says, "My darling, if I use too many females in this book, no one that the men are just as responsible and just as filthy for all the evils of the world. And know, too, that is because I, being a man, have the natural tendency to want to offload guilt and responsibility onto anyone else. And so my clients that are female and less like me, I have remembered more," which is a great bit of self-awareness. He's like, no, listen, that is men as much as women. But I have purposely screened those out and don't remember them as much because I don't like the feeling of guilt. Right. And this is why every woman on the internet complains and thinks that all the problems of sexual relations are men, and all the men think all the problems are women, because it's so good to blame someone else. It's so good to blame someone else. He starts his book with speaking of his father, and he says, "But he liked just as his son does." Speaking of himself, he liked just as his son does, and indeed every one of us, to look for outside causes when he knew that something was out of harmony within in himself. And so he would speak with women, and who were having fertility issues, and they finally conceived, and then they had a miscarriage. He would ask them about it, and many of them would be like, "Well, and I fell down the stairs." And he was all these things where they had put themselves in positions to, and Freud talked about, no one likes this. This is why therapy has moved to what it is now, which is largely ineffective, although not totally. But because it's so uncomfortable, this idea that maybe you fell down the stairs on purpose on some level. Maybe you put yourself in a position to be hurt for some reason is so uncomfortable to people. And he has a chapter devoted to mother hate. He says, "My dear, everyone has talked about mother love. We talked about the love of mothers till we're pink in the face. But if we discuss for a moment mother hate, I can assure you many women hate their children." And it's like so uncomfortable to say, but it's also obviously true. He goes into like what they call postpartum depression is in many cases just a mother being extremely resentful of her child for existing and they've taken away her freedom, her bodily health. And now she doesn't even get the wonderful glow. You get the praise of being pregnant. Now you just have this thing, and it's needy and meh, And this is why people put Freud in the dumpster, and Grodach, and to a lesser extent Jung, because their ideas are so deeply uncomfortable because there's so much truth in it that we do not want to look at. I mean, he has a whole thing that says, I was speaking with a young boy who was a man who was sexually abused as a young boy, and it after he was like, it was clear to me from the outset that he had wanted this to happen. He doesn't excuse it happening, but I mean that sort of like frankness of like, well, you were a victim of sexual assault, yes, but you being out at 2 a.m. drunk with a skirt that's 3 inches long means on some level that you kind of wanted that to happen. And that's real
victim blaming.
Yeah, exactly. The whole thing is like, well, no, you have a role in this, right? It's like it's the same thing as if a man is walking around the worst part of town with $100 bills hanging out of his pocket. It's like, well, did you want to get robbed? Right? if you're doing everything possible to set yourself up and you're not a stupid person in a situation where did you want it to happen? And a lot of people, because there is such a sweetness in failure. There's such a sweetness in being a victim and in saying, it's not my fault. God, there's such a sweetness in that. Of saying like, oh, and there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. It's so sweet. And people really are into that in a way that is very uncomfortable. And so if you want to read the Book of the It, be my guest. It is very disturbing. It does go. I mean, I see the criticisms people have where they're like, well, everything can't all be like murderous rage and neuroticism. And I think that's true. I think they do I think he is, remember, he's writing this as a troll. So I think he is playing it up a little bit of exaggeration for effect, but it's also not that exaggerated. He brings up like, he's like, when women are raped, like, well, he talks about, look at true crime. Women, there's a deeply erotic element to the true crime genre. Like, if you look at the logos, it's like a woman with voluptuous whips, her silhouette, and then a knife. There's a lot of rape fantasies. There's a lot of rape fantasies out there. And it's very, very uncomfortable for everyone to admit that.
South Park did a good episode about that, where all the
they did.
Parents were watching that murder porn.
Yeah, it's exactly. And Groddick pointed this out very early on. He said, why do you think so many women have this paranoia about someone hiding under their bed with it's like, he said, I had one client who came to me because she was sexually assaulted. And after talking with her, she said, she told me, my first thought when I saw him jump out at me is, oh God, finally it's happening. And isn't that really upsetting for everyone to hear? But Groddick said, judge not. Take that so seriously. And then you can know the person and forgive yourself and them and begin to love, right? Oh God, finally it's happening, right? Just like the artist, I forget his name. I wish I could remember. He was a French painter. And he painted some good stuff. And a sculptor. It'll come to me later. But he was hit by a car.
Giacometti.
Yeah. Exactly. Thank you. Godward has joined us. While it was happening, he saw it coming, and he said, my thought was, finally something is happening. He was so bored with his life. Finally I'm getting hit by a car. Oh God, it's so good to be hit by a car. And that was a part of him walking on the side of the road near the car so that would happen. Yes, of course it was. And so Groddick, he actually witnessed a lot of people heal from miraculous chronic diseases. And again, I'm not saying it because I don't want to be like everything's your, but a lot of chronic diseases were, in his estimation, caused by unconscious desire for various things. And I think he's probably more right about that than anyone is comfortable with, as well as some accidents that happen. Because the modern medical establishment takes this response to it. Your body's a machine, and sometimes it breaks or it goes wrong, or it's like a computer code and sometimes it goes wrong. But what about the opposite? Like, your body is a highly sophisticated, it's smarter than you. Groddick would point this out absolutely from the first time. He'd say, listen, people would be like, no, this psychosomatic stuff. He'd be like, okay, who's going to argue, said Groddick, that the unconscious, can grow your whole body, can grow the brain of a man, which you're so attached to and think is so highly of, with all its intellect, and his heart, and his lungs, grow it from nothing, but cannot manifest if it has the desire, pneumonia, or cancer? And that's a good point. Like, it makes this crazy functioning thing. Like, of course it could make that other stuff. And there was a man that read Groddick, and he said after reading it, I said, I will never fear disease again, which is a big claim, but there is Groddick was an interesting guy. That's all I'm saying. He was a very interesting fellow, and he was a goblin, and he knew he was a goblin, and that gave him power because he wasn't lying about being a goblin. And the only goblins are really a problem when they're deceiving you. Like, I'm not a goblin. But if they're like, no, I'm a goblin. Let me tell you where I see as a goblin. There's very useful things there. So hello, Godward. Is your friend joining us this evening? He's gone. He's disappeared. We're having guests on. I think Godward stepped away from his
Sorry,
computer.
I'm back. What? I was muted.
Is your friend joining us this evening?
Yeah. Hold on. I'm trying to get her on here. Link
Okay.
on.
We're having a Jewess on, everybody.
Stack. Well, I try to be fair because I heard this thing one time that did you ever meet anybody who converted to Judaism?
There was a guy at the church that one time he became like a full-on Jew with curly Qs on the side of his head. But I didn't really know him that well.
I've met like 2 or 3 of them, and it's it's like an eccentric thing to do, to say the least. But I guess there's a thing in Judaism, at least in like maybe conservative and Orthodox Judaism, where first of all, they make it very difficult. Like it's not exactly a
they turn you away.
Well, yeah, like there's a lot of that. But then like if you persist and you finally, go through with the whole thing and you get like circumcised or recircumcised or whatever, I mean, you're always going to be perceived as a little, it's like if you learn a new language or something, like you're always going to retain, that kind of accent, and you'll be perceived as an outsider. But I guess they make it a point to not constantly remind you that you converted,
Jews are nice about converts once you get through the barrier.
I mean, I guess I don't even know, honestly, but anyway, so like, yeah, for my friend and for anybody else who like I think converts to Christianity, I like to not, well, anyway, so yeah.
Oh, okay. So you're saying, okay, so she didn't convert to Judaism. She converted from Judaism, is what you're telling me.
Right, from Judaism.
And we should not harp on that.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Okay, I didn't know what you were saying. I thought you were saying she converted to. I was saying she was a Jewess because I thought she converted to Judaism.
Oh no! See now, weirdly, I've met at least 2 girls who did that, and I mean, my perception of those cases was that they did it in this like status-seeking way, almost.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know. I think with my friend Jessica, she's really just like a weird punk person who, I mean, we can ask her when she comes on. I'm trying to text with her here and get her.
I've read a few of her things. She's the one that wrote I was a fedora atheist and now I believe in demons. That one.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Let me see. Wait, did you send her the link, or am I supposed to? Let me.
You were supposed to send it to her.
Okay.
I thought you guys were like a came as a pair.
Okay. Sorry. Paste.
That's okay.
See if that works. I'm having a hard time because I'm on my phone. Can you send her the link to the?
I can. I'll do everything around here. Ugh.
Thanks. Just juggle. Just play the violin and. It's Jessica Wood on Substack.
Jessica.
Hold on.
Here we go. Tell her I'm going to send the thing. I'm doing.
All right. She's tuned in now.
Oh, look at her! Look at her lovely family.
And so
he doesn't look Jewish.
And so wait, I think her avatar is just her though. Are you seeing her?
Well, if you click on her profile and go to her like her Substack.
Yeah, so she has 4 kids and she's like a tradcast. She's like a Sedevacantist, SSPX freak, now.
Yeah. Tell her I sent her the thing on Substack.
She's coming, I'm sure.
Okay.
And I like you know how you guys
I have to. Have you seen Spaceballs?
Yeah, I loved Spaceballs.
She doesn't look.
Yeah, I just laughed. I laughed, but I was muted when you said that.
I know. I always think that every time.
And I think that's the episode title.
Yeah. You know how you guys like remember how a couple weeks ago Fuentes went on Tucker's show and it was like break the internet? Well,
Yes.
for me personally, getting my 10 years friend Jessica on Mystical American Patriots Society is the is sort of that. Like I've been waiting for this for a long time. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are so we're in a whole we were just talking about to tell her she's preceded by I'm sure she's happy that she was talked about people being willingly raped was preceded.
That's like right in her like, literally right in her sweet spot. So just
hi Jessica. She's joined us, but I don't think she's on yet.
She's on mute.
It's okay.
Okay.
Oh, hello. Hello. You sound very normal. Hello.
What did you expect me to say?
Well, someone that converts from Judaism to being a Sedevacantist tradcath may be sound a little, psychopathic sometimes, but you sound very, very, very normal.
I'm a lot more normal than you would think.
Yeah. Well, the Sedevacantist argument is very sound. There's no reason not to be.
I don't actually go to a Sedevacantist church.
Is that how you pronounce it? I can never.
Sedevacantis,
which means in Latin the seat is vacant, which is a sect of Catholicism, which is kind of like Protestant Catholicism, and they're like the Pope isn't the real Pope.
I don't actually go to a church like that. I just think they sometimes make strong arguments.
Their arguments are completely logically sound. Yeah. There's no. If you follow the paperwork out, it's completely logically sound, which just shows the faults of logic. Is where I fall. It's like, well, logic is not. Yeah, it's like the reason is not where it's at, But thank you for coming on. Godward has wanted you and he to come on at the same time. I wanted to do a podcast after I heard you guys do one about your impromptu one-off podcast about nostalgia and that sort of stuff.
It's time for episode 2. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, so I think you should both definitely continue that. If you don't mind, can you say, it's okay if you can't, where you are based out of?
Sure. I live in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. Is your husband very, very Midwestern?
Is my husband Midwestern?
Yeah, he doesn't look very Midwestern in the photo on your Substack, but he might be.
No, yes and no. I mean, he's always lived in Minnesota, but his parents are
New England. Were they from New England?
Yeah, they were from New England. Yeah.
He has a very like founding stock look about him.
He is. He's like a Mayflower stock.
I was gonna say he looks like someone if you put a buckle on his hat, he'd fit right in.
Yeah, he's one of those.
Yeah, sure. Which is good. Okay, so I'm not sure what Godward wanted us to exactly discuss, but we can go everything. I'm sorry to tell you that you were before you came on, we were discussing voluntary rape, and I don't want that to be how people are introduced to you. So
voluntary rape?
There's a page break here.
Okay.
Between everyone imagine a page break between that discussion and Jessica coming on.
No, but this is like right in your wheelhouse, isn't it, Jessica?
Voluntary rape? Well, isn't that?
Well, the idea being that
definition not voluntary though.
Well, the idea being that a lot of what goes on in sexual assault is in some way asked for. Like, for example, if you are assaulted in the middle of the night on the street, if you were walking around at 2 a.m. drunk with a skirt that's 3 inches long, were you not in some ways desiring that to happen? Or
how about that? Like the guy jumping out of the bushes, like that is rape.
Well, or like the eroticism inherent in
it's more like if you go into the guy's apartment with the short skirt and you're like in his bed, blah blah blah.
Or like the eroticism inherent in true crime scenario, in the true crime genre. There's a lot of like undercover eroticism of like if you look at the logos of these ladies' podcasts, it's like a full lip seductive silhouette of a woman and then a knife. It's like, what's going on? What's going on there? But Godward wanted us. He said he wanted you to. We wanted to. He wanted us to like ask you some things to reveal some issues.
Let's talk about the like kind of Jessica and I like kind of like we're in almost the same graduating class of like 2016 when it comes to like the red pill
Oh, okay,
stuff.
yeah.
And
I was about to say, I think you're older than her. I don't.
Yeah, no, but well, actually, she was like the class ahead of me, maybe.
Okay.
But I've known her for a long time because of that. And like, I think one of the things we kind of agree on is that like a lot of, what we called like globo homo or clown world kind of emerged like like in or after like the mid-90s, like after Vatican II, basically.
Wait, hold on one
after.
second though. Can we clarify what we mean by the red pill? Because I feel like the meaning of the red pill has changed definition.
It suffered a lot of meaning drift. Yes.
Yeah. Now it refers to like pickup artist stuff or something.
Well, no, it started as pickup artistry.
Yeah, there was a lot of like Heartiste and gender, sex, red pill stuff. Like that wasn't that the original?
But I feel like when we were talking about red pill, we meant it to be more than just that. It was like
Well, here I will lay out the history for you. In the early, so after the Matrix films came out, probably about 2007 or 8. I don't remember exactly who started it, but what would become pickup artistry forums, and this was very early days when they were like, what you got to do is you got to wear a crazy hat, and this will draw you out of the crowd, like all this ridiculous stuff. But it was like it's like a meta game analysis. Anyway, and they developed like, well, why does this work? Because what people would do is they would wear the crazy hat, and then they would find that some woman would go sleep with them before they would. And they started having all these theories about like how female psychology worked. And what they came up with, whether true or no is immaterial, was 180 degrees counter to the way people have presented female psychology in the mainstream. And so like this idea that women are like wholesome and are like they're like, no, it's the opposite. And so this was the red pill, like you come out of the matrix of the delusions that society has given you regarding women in particular. And then people like others, but the one that comes to mind, Roosh, who I wrote a few articles for back in the day on Return of King's website. He then expanded that and said, well, actually, he got into thinking like, well, why is that being able to lie to us so much about that? What else is a lie? And then the red pill expanded to like political red pills, and then meta-political, and then metaphysical red pills. So it definitely began as like, the red pill was code for I know women are whores, is how it started. And I'm not going to be lied to about that anymore. That kind of guy. But then it expanded to, as Roosh himself expanded, he was because it was sort of at the beginning of the men's rights movement, and then followed it to its end, and now has exited to become like an Orthodox monk somewhere. He followed it through to be like, no, actually, everything I thought was a lie, and now I'm moving to something else. So that's how it happened.
I think with the red pill, like discovering the supposed true nature of women, though, was that really the true nature of women, or is that like the women who have been propagandized by this like MTV machine?
Right. I don't say it was the actual truth, just they believed it to be the truth, and that's how they used the red pill in their vernacular. Right. And that's what they were. So I'm not saying that what they were saying is correct, but they thought it was, and they said that this is the red pill. And once I give you the red pill about women, you'll be successful with women. Was the promise.
Jessica, talk about the propaganda, because this is what I find so interesting is like, I was like, so I was born in 78, and, like my mom, and I think all of my mom's friends and stuff got married when they were virgins. And that was like completely common in the baby boomer generation. And if it wasn't, they at least lied about it. Right. Whereas by the time I was like graduating high school, it was like a mark of shame to still be a virgin. And so the question is like, how did that happen, that quickly in one generation? It seems like it couldn't have been like anything other than like on purpose, intentional. Okay, Jessica, what do you say?
Well, yeah, and I mean the answer is really simple. There was this entire propaganda machine, the most notorious being like MTV music videos, and then all of those movies, those teenage movies from kind of starting in the 80s, but really like kind of peaking in like the late 90s, early 2000s, like American Pie and all these movies like Cruel Intentions, all these movies about losing your virginity, and it's always teenagers, and that's like their goal is to like lose their virginity. And then yeah, all of the really provocative MTV music videos and like the top 40 hits, like, you know, kind of like proclaiming this like really shallow hedonistic like nightclub culture, and like having sex is like that's it, you know. So it just seems like that was all there was. Unless, I mean, if you tried to escape from that, there was like these other subcultures, I guess, but they were not really any better, I guess.
Yeah, like one of the things that she said to me is that she like when I was, you know, like I said, I was born in 78, so when I was like 18 or 20 and kind of like, you know, thinking about having sex, I like kind of knew I wasn't supposed to because my mom told me not to. And honestly, there were still like whispers of like, I mean, I was maybe eccentric and I was reading like James Dobson or something at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So like in my head, I did kind of know that it was a sin, that sex is for marriage, you know.
Yeah.
And like if I did it, then I kind of knew I shouldn't have, and I was just being rebellious or something. But what Jessica says is that she didn't even know that
Mm-hmm.
like that there was a whole generation after mine, like maybe millennials, who like literally never saw a kind of, you know, Christian traditional presentation of what sex ought to be. And that's
Right.
like shocking to me. But
No,
So
I
how
mean,
old are
I
you?
believe that. I believe that.
How old are you?
Me, I am. Oh, I'm a indiscriminate space wizard, but
eternal.
yeah, I'm semi-eternal. I'm on a landing mission from space right now. I know you haven't kept up with, so it doesn't make any sense to you. But I am. I think between you and I don't know how old are you?
36.
Okay, yeah. So I am somewhere in the vicinity. If I had an earthly age of between you and Godward.
Okay, and what was your experience with all of
Well,
that?
so so I know my experience wasn't representative
Mhm.
because I used to pretend to be a dead body in a field to scare strangers into going that they were going to hell. So my church upbringing was extremely evangelical, and we were very that was very clear from the. But I know most people did not invite their communities to come watch a Halloween time presentation of children dying in a field and then going to hell to scare them into Jesus. So I know that mine is not representative of what was happening, but I can certainly believe for most people outside of that area that they never even really had exposure to the idea that premarital sex was an issue at all, or like
Let's
a
ask
problem.
Kavi. Can we ask Kavi? Because like I was
Kavi's
raised by,
Canadian.
I
Yeah.
know. Well, so I assume like me, he was basically just like raised by televisions and kind of not particularly Christian. Is that fair or not, Kavi?
No, I was like super Christian. So I
Oh, okay. I
was
didn't know that.
very much beaten over the head with
Okay.
premarital sex is very bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if
But
you
if
were
you
raised by TVs, I mean, yeah, I think she's right that after about like, you know, if your like consciousness kind of dawned on you after about 1998 and you just had like not just MTV, but it was like E Entertainment TV and like so remember how like I used to note this that like movies in the 90s you'd be watching like any movie, just a comedy movie or a drama, and they would just sprinkle in sex scenes that would be like basically pornographic, you know?
yeah,
Like for no reason. It didn't move the plot.
like
It was
like
totally
the
unnecessary.
Ghostbusters has for no reason
Yeah,
a
like a
scene with a ghost giving someone a blowjob,
and it's great. Like
which would
it's
make it.
just
And
like
I hate that because the movie would be a fun movie to watch with my kids, except for that one
exactly,
scene.
exactly.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
So I think like I guess the like kind of edgy take here is that like yeah these scenes were sprinkled in and that like MTV was essentially like you know mental moral programming
Mhm,
for a whole generation, or you might say moral deprogramming, I guess.
mhm. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I was raised by TV for sure.
Yeah.
Um, And I was just gonna say too, did you guys, though you had your Christian background, did you know, like, hear all the 50 Cent? Like, I feel like everyone in that time period just heard all of that, and it's all like permanently imprinted in our brains, and you like can't get rid of it. Like, do you know all those
Heard the
old
50 what?
50 Cent?
Like, oh, the rapper?
Yeah.
I knew he existed. I couldn't tell you song one he ever
Okay,
sang.
well, you missed it then, because I feel like, yeah, Godward and I, like,
Couldn't escape.
and my husband and I talk about this all the time too.
I know.
Like,
Again, I was literally being zipped up in a body bag in the field. That's what I was doing. I was not listening to 50 Cent.
yeah.
I was pretending.
Sumo,
I was pretending to have been hit by a tornado and thrown under a car.
Well,
Like,
I'm glad someone avoided it, honestly, because
Yeah.
I was just under the impression that
No,
everyone.
yeah, I'm not negating that at all. It was a great childhood, but it was atypical.
But like, remember also those like internet days, kind of in between like AOL and social media, where a lot of people were like, you couldn't help but like, if you were at a certain age, everybody saw those like gore videos, some guy getting beheaded. Like,
Yeah.
I thank
Two
God I
Girls,
never
One
saw.
Cup.
Yeah, I never saw that one, thank God. But
I
like,
never saw it either, but I know what it is.
you know, those kinds of things were going around, and it's like it seems like or like the mythology at the time was this is just the internet, man. Like you can put anything on it. It's so interesting. But then like when you think in retrospect, these videos were they like formed the minds of a generation, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like some guy gets like fucked to death by a horse and we all have to know about it. Like that's
Right.
that's so traumatizing. You know, I think that's Jessica's thesis is that like in a sense everybody is like literally PTSD'd by the internet. You know, kind of like one-shotted.
I mean,
And
I don't disagree.
yeah.
I think what I would say, as far as it being propaganda, yes, but also a lot of it is uncomfortably from the ground up because as a reaction against. So, for example, like I don't. Well, I was going to say, but I don't think I should. It's not mine to say. Women in my family, in my history, my family's history, were the products of premarital sex. And I think if you look back on, like say 1950s culture, whatever, I don't remember the exact statistics. I think it's something like when polled, somewhere near 50% of people had sex before marriage. Now, what ended up happening, most of that was boy and girl going steady. They had sex and then they got married. So it really didn't matter too much, you know, because they were just, yeah. But some of it was not that. And people were a lot, like Godward said, there was the appearance of a lot more wholesomeness, but some of it was just they lied about it. And a lot of what we had in the 80s and 90s is a reaction against the damage caused by that lying, I think. So, for example, I know a woman who was named after, well, I guess she's named like, which is not a girl's name, right? That is what it's like naming your child. It's like naming, you know, and her mother named her that. In part, before you got on, I was speaking of mother hate, which is the opposite of mother love. In part because I think she had a little mother hate because they had a very complicated relationship with her father, her husband, right? Her husband and father, and they had what was later came to realize was her father had like a whole secret second family and was lying about it. And the mother knew, and they had all these inventive ways of not talking about it. And this, in my opinion, has left somewhat of a scar on and the way she's approached relationships. Again, she's a great lady. She just has, I think, some, perhaps we should say, daddy issues from this, and I think that I think a not small part of the because now, like I was talking about Groddick earlier before you got on, what people were up to in private was just as shocking as they get up to now in private. And there was a movement to say, like, well, let's at least be honest about it, which was turned into everyone let's throw dildos around on the street, which is too much. Which is too much. But it has, I think, in its like the desire to like be who you are. Like this is the phrase, like be honest, be your true self. Like don't hide, don't be duplicitous. So much of it would have been okay, and it would have turned out better, I think, if our parents' generation, grandparents' generation had just been open and honest about the mistakes they made and said, well, yeah, but trying to hide it and pretend it never happened and the shame around it causes doublethink. It causes inability to trust elders. It causes all these issues that then I think spilled out into, well, just forget it. Everyone do whatever because that's all a fraud anyway. You know, I think as you say, Vatican II comes after World War II. And I think a huge bit of the post-war world is like, well, everyone was claiming to be a Christian and like love thy neighbor, and then they bombed the world to hell. So obviously they're hypocrites. And that's not an unreasonable position. And so they're like, well, I guess this all the Christianity is just a hypocritical nonsense because everyone, you know, it's the same sort of thing. You have to, which is why I was talking about Groddick's. The idea that like just be honest about what's happening is so powerful, I think. So I don't know how much of the propaganda is top down and how much of it is bottom up, you know. And I think a lot of it is like the COVID tyranny was mostly bottom up. No one was making people like call in their neighbors. People just did it out of the glee to tattletale and the glee to be self-righteous, you know. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure.
I don't know. It's just like when I look back at all of that stuff, it does feel very top down. What do you think, Godward? You think it's top down or bottom up?
I mean, you know me, I think like the Jewish music execs did it. Like I mean that's sort of a joke, but it's like I do think that like for example, birth control is a psyop. Like I think it was I mean I don't believe that like it just was invented and then like you know what I mean, like the CIA knew about it. Like I mean it was population control. It came along at the same time as abortion basically did. Like,
well, it still is. It's you don't even leave the hospital and they're already asking you what kind of birth control are you going to use.
Yeah,
yeah,
like
that's a great example. Like that is a perfect example of like, okay,
like they've force it on you, and it's like, so it's like not, they don't present it as like an option. It's like, which one are you going to do?
Yeah, and they're wearing the white lab coat and they look like a doctor, and that's what authority says. And so, or like, you know, and this is how Americans got sort of tricked into all circumcising their kids, because it's like if the doctors say it's the normal thing to do, you just do it. And like I know Sumo, like I know you're right. Like you've done these great episodes. I appreciate them on how you have to like kind of take responsibility for your own medical.
Yeah, this is what me and Cavi were talking. This dovetails perfectly to me and Cavi.
Yeah, but it's just like, okay, well that's fine. If everyone's taught that, that's fine. But we're not taught that. We're taught that these are the doctors.
These are the experts. These are the doctors. Yeah. This is your culture. This is what you do. Yep.
Yeah. And so like when like these things are coming from the, like, for example, it's another silly example, but like my mom never breastfed me. She gave me formula because like that's what you did in 1978, you know? Right. And like,
same here.
That's bullshit. That's crazy. But that's what they were told by their doctors. They're told this is better, you know, than nature. Like, that's just, and like women believed them, I guess, at the time, you know, like, I don't know. I mean, I'm really interested in these interruptions in like, what would have been like, what do they call that? Like folk wisdom, you know what I mean? Like, like about how, for example, about how to have a baby. Like one time I asked my grandma about this, and she said that when she gave birth, so this would have been in like 1951 or something, they would literally knock the woman out and pull the baby out with forceps.
Yep.
Like and so she has no memory of it at all. And then like I just the fact like the way that it changes from one generation to the next now, it just seems so unhealthy and so
Well,
like
so here's
backwards.
the thing.
Oh, sorry.
Go,
Can I
no,
just say one thing?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's interesting about that too, like related to the birth thing, like the breastfeeding thing too, like the way they teach you to do it. Like there was this whole movement to like there was formula, and then there was like this whole push to like get women to stop using formula and breastfeed. But like the way they teach you to do it in the hospital, like is like impossible. Like you like it's all wrong.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre. And they tell you you have like you can't sleep next to the baby, but everyone does. And it's like it's just odd. It's like everything is like set up to kind of make you like fail. And it just feels on purpose. I don't know.
Yeah, so it like I said, I don't discount that there is some on purposeness to it. But what you have to keep in mind is that the generation above you was themselves the product of a very imperfect generation that had their own side. And so you're kind of like you talk about like, so the people that taught you how to go about child rearing and sexual ethics, like Godward was saying, were literally knocked unconscious and had the babies pulled out with forceps, which is kind of insane. And then their parents before them had, before them, they were like so against, like it was improper to breastfeed at all. You had to have that was for like the slave class. Like we had wet nurses for that. And before that, you wouldn't even name your kid because they, like in Darwin's time, they couldn't feel, they weren't capable of like sentient thought until like 4 years old or something. So they did all these crazy experiments on them. They did surgery on them without anesthesia, which is not like, of course they have feelings. Like this idea that they couldn't sense anything before they could speak is ludicrous. But so every generation has had some insanity foisted upon them, and then they're reacting to that in a way, often an overreaction, and then you have to deal with that. We have to deal with the fact that our parents were themselves imperfect and raised by imperfect people, and so forth and so on. And so that's why I hesitate to be like it's all top down, because I think genuinely like the people that raised us had their own PTSD from their raisings, who had their own PTSD from their and so forth. It's been this kind of shit show going back to Adam and Eve, So I couldn't say how much is top down and how much is it would be because the thing is we want to believe that like it was just a short time ago it was all good, and then it went off the rails.
Yeah, like this is your abundance thesis that I like want to support, because I mean it certainly is awesome to have air conditioning and like I broke my arm when I was 10 and the doctor just like put an injection in it and set it, and now it's perfect again, and that's awesome. Like they would have killed me 10,000 years ago, throw me off the cliff, like
right.
So I appreciate all that, but I think that like I guess what I'm trying to get at is this like rate of change.
It's been,
I mean, it's really accelerating to like, it's not even a generation anymore. It's like I said, Jessica's like whatever, 11 years younger than I am, and she had a completely different experience than I did. So we're talking like, it's almost like hard to communicate between generations about like what things would be important, and like just that, like I know it's like a platitude or whatever, but that idea of like it takes 300 years to build a cathedral, we don't have 5 or 10 years like vision to the horizon,
yeah, I mean that is a problem, and we're not going to get it. It's not going to
I feel like there's a really stark difference between, you even see it with like books and movies, TV shows, music, before and after like 1962.
Yeah, that's
you
what
see that too, Godward. Like I'm not saying everything was perfect before then, but things seemed normal, and then all of a sudden,
like normal versus like, and let's just describe normal, because you and I use that term kind of colloquially, but it's like, or like technically,
like a preppy, waspy, like kids riding their bikes down the street, pick up baseball, mom,
kind of like also like implicitly censored, like
like you go to school and like read the classics and
like it's not just that
hang out with
nobody
your friends.
in the year 1955. It's not that like nobody thought of like a Britney Spears video. It's just that you couldn't do that then.
No.
Like there was no like it
You
just
couldn't,
wasn't,
especially with like a teenager like that.
yeah, like I know there was like Betty Page or whatever, but you'd have to go to some seedy place in
Yeah,
New York City
exactly.
to like pay $5
Well,
to see it.
but yeah, but this goes to what I was saying. Like in some ways, like for example, there was less pornography in say the 1950s for sure.
Way less, yeah.
But there was way more prostitution. So much. Like prostitution was sort of rampant from early America to.
Well, what do we think is better though, prostitution or pornography?
Well, that's the thing. It's like
and you have both now too with like OnlyFans and everything.
Yeah,
you do. But
it's
I mean, like
combine them all into one now. You know,
I mean, like the World War I chlamydia thing.
I think the OnlyFans and the pornography is worse. Like prostitution's been around forever, but that almost seems like more normal because at least there's a real person there. You know, it's not this like illusion, and also like with the prostitutes, it's almost like it was probably kind of vanilla. It wasn't like this BDSM, like every weird perversion and like upside down, like hardcore gangbang crap that was like you saw with like internet pornography and all of that stuff, you know. I don't know.
See, that's the thing. I don't know that it wasn't. I like, and that's where I diverge from a lot of people. Like I no longer have very rose-colored glasses about the past, and that doesn't mean I'm right. But you know,
wasn't Weimar Germany like pretty out of control?
Yeah.
So it seems like okay. So
but that's like the one exception though, Kavi. Like that's like. Or like
no. Like Spartacus, you remember the movie Spartacus?
Yeah, I mean you're right.
Okay, listen.
Well, oysters are snails.
I just got that E. Michael Jones book about the libido dominandi, and his whole thing is he's showing like it seems like there's revolution and then there's like normalcy. Like it goes in waves.
Yeah, we're like living in revolution.
Yeah, but it's like a continual revolution. But then there's like backlashes continuously, and it does seem like the 1950s was like there was not revolution. Like there was this like Red Scare, and people like just kind of did like. I mean, obviously not things weren't perfect, but like it like the culture seemed. From that back then does seem like pretty healthy, I guess. You know, you can say there's Elvis and there was.
Well, like for example, Elvis is a great example because he was practicing open pedophilia and no one cared. Priscilla was so much younger than him. She was like 13, 14 when he first appeared on the stage with him. Led Zeppelin went to parties with girls that were as young as 12 and took them back to their room.
True, yeah. But Led Zeppelin was from the 70s. You know?
Well, I'm just saying, you know, they were the people in charge of the news at the time or something that were older. Or the song Dirty Laundry, you know that song Dirty Laundry? People love it when you lose. They love Dirty Laundry. That one by no one knows that song. Do you know that song?
Vaguely. I feel like if you put the ukulele to it, I would know it.
By Don Henley, one of the Eagles.
Yeah.
From the Eagles. That song was a very popular song. Still is. It still gets played on classic radio. It's about him basically killing a child. And I don't want to laugh at that, but it's crazy. This was in the I don't know, 19 like this is my point that no one cared about pedophilia in the past either. Like it's you take people change what they get upset about, but
that's true. I mean, it's definitely become more of a flashpoint in the present. And this is one of those other things that like, oh, sorry to interrupt. I'll come back. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just saying, you know, he picked up the guy for singer from the Eagles picks up these prostitutes that are 13, 15, somewhere in there, off the street. So imagine this idyllic past, 13-year-old streetwalkers. That's not very idyllic. Brings them to his like cabin in the woods, has to call the police because one of them has overdosed on cocaine, which he claims is hers because you know, 13-year-old or 15-year-old streetwalkers carry $30,000 worth of cocaine and not mega rock stars. And she almost dies, but they revive her and everything. And then what happens is in California, one female news anchor won't let this issue go and keeps harping on it. Like, why is it Don Henley in jail? Why is it he had this pedophilia, prostitution, cocaine giving to a minor, all these things which are, she almost dies. And then his response is to write a song like, people just love to talk about your dirty laundry. And everyone's like, yay, Mm-hmm. And so I don't like, yes, things were good in some ways. There was a lot less open degeneracy, but also people genuinely did not care about sexual abuse or usage of underage people in really any capacity. It seems to me that may not be accurate, but I think that we are I don't know how much of it was they were better and how much of it is they just didn't have access to the technology to make such things. I don't know.
Like part of the argument here, I think, is that like sexual ethics changed so much in the 1960s, and actually the flashpoint was, or is still, because we're still living in this revolution, consent, right? Like
yeah.
So all of sexual ethics became reduced to the question of consent,
right?
Whereas like previously there were all these other, I mean, you Catholics can speak to this, but there were all these other kind of concerns about sexual morality that now in the present are only, and this is why I think there is like an intensification of concern about pedophilia, because we say that people under 18 can't consent.
Right.
And so that's the only reason it's bad. Like from the postmodern view, it's because of consent.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Whereas like, I think, I mean, I guess, I don't know. To me, it's like it's like, how if you put like too much weight on a linchpin, it's going to collapse eventually. And it feels like that's the last bulwark against just complete sexual laissez-faire. I mean, who knows what would happen if they pull that plug, but it's like, I don't know. Like I said, I guess it seems like a kind of inversion to switch from this, like, I'm thinking of like the Catholic catechism or whatever about sex, to just like, well, as long as both people consent and kind of like write it down on paper, then you can do whatever you want. And that's like a very big change. And by the way, it's like, to me, I mean, I don't know, like, I understand what you're saying, Sumo. Like, there's definitely, there's bad stuff happening all through history. Mm-hmm. But for most of history, I get the sense that like,
normal average people,
not the Caligula class, but like
normal
people. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Normal average people associated sex and marriage and babies and all of these things together. And I mean, you could say it was like the pill or something, but I think there was something like inorganic about it. Like it feels like population control or coercion, or like E. Michael Jones said, like the libido dominandi, like how his whole theory is that it's just all kind of a way of making people like population control, and then not really like caring about politics or things like that. Like they're too distracted, basically. Is kind of the idea.
I don't know that follows. People are more into politics than they've ever been forever.
Yeah, because now no one's having sex.
Yeah. Well, I thought the thesis was that sex was a distractor from politics.
Well, in the 90s, that's what was going on. But now I think people have kind of, I mean, he talks about that too, about like the no FAP or whatever, like, but that was 20 years after he wrote this book. And now there has been kind of a backlash against it, and there was Me Too, and there was like it's complicated. Like it does go in waves, but like the general consensus is like kind of still the same as what it was in the 90s, I guess. Mm-hmm. But the bread and circuses have kind of like subsided post 2020, I guess.
Mm. And there's also like the issue of, we've talked about this before, like marital rape is a thing that in history never existed,
right?
Because the traditional marriage vow is consent. Like it says to have and to hold, and everyone knows that that's a euphemism for sex.
Now, here's the thing, though.
Yeah,
I was talking with a lady, and she was very upset about this, and she had never connected this idea that they're having to hold.
Right. Yeah, they haven't because they weren't.
Yeah. Most people don't because no one talks about it. You just get married because you're in love, and that it has nothing to do with sex or reproduction or any of this. Like,
but also because it's not explicit. Like,
it's not explicit.
This is the thing. This is the problem with being hiding and being unwilling to talk about things. People like, if it's like to have and to have sex would be so much more clear about what was intended.
Okay, but counterpoint.
Yeah.
This really is interesting, but the counterpoint would be that, like, in a coherent, you know how like English people have a way with English, with words, they're witty, they're good with barbs, like they just really are better at English than American English speakers. And I think that's because they have a smaller, more ancient culture that kind of nurtures its language, insularly. And so you can imply things, you can allude to things, you can hint in certain way, you can have euphemisms. And not everything has to be explicit in like a coherent, sustainable culture. But we don't live in that culture, right? Like we just said, everything changes every 30 years. And so, yeah, it does seem like in our culture, we almost need like, you're right, like the marital vow has to like literally spell it out. This means.
Well, that's why that catechism that I have is so interesting too, because it's just this like 30, 40-page document from 1960. Interesting that it's from 1960 is I wonder if they're like, okay, we need to like spell this out now. Like, because it does seem like this would have just been kind of common sense for people.
Yeah, it would have. Like a lot has been lost in translation. I think go ahead.
Sorry, it's literally, it's like instructions for marriage, and it's like, this is what marriage is, this is what it means to be married, this is what men are like, this is what women like, this is how you solve this problem in marriage. And it's like it's that that's only exists for like the Catholic Church doesn't even give you that. Like I got that from like the SSPX priest, and I can't even find it.
That's 3 to Get Married by Fulton Sheen?
No, that book is really good, but it's not quite as like explicit, and it's longer. Okay. It's just called. What I need to do is like upload this online and show people because it's really good, actually. Yeah, it's just this like 30-page little booklet that they gave us, like from the church. They're like, oh, we need to like instruct you on how to be married. Like the priest gave it to me, and I hope I never lose it. I really need to make copies of it before I lose it, because I couldn't find it anywhere online, and it's just like, I don't know. Yeah, I've showed Godward. I've showed you some bits and pieces of it.
Because the reason it's so interesting is because now again, like, sorry to distill it down into a stupid word like postmodern, but we all kind of know what that means now. Like in the postmodern era, these things aren't defined in any traditional sense. And so like weirdly, I actually am kind of wondering what marriage even looks like from like, let's say a Zoomer's point of view. Like what even is it to them? What do they think they're signing on to? It's like I think they might have some sense that it involves certain financial obligations, hospital visiting rights, like what are we doing here? And like, so like, or just like in marriage, nowadays, like a lot of times women will work. There's not predefined roles, like who puts the bed sheets on, who does the laundry, these things aren't defined at all. And so like, it's almost as if they expect every individual to kind of negotiate with the individual of their choice what the rules are for this relationship. And like, honestly, that's friendship. That's what friendship is, right? But that's not what marriage was historically.
Exactly. But now it's like they redefine marriage, with like gay marriage and no fault divorce and all of these things that kind of like weakened the institution of marriage. And now no one even knows what it is. And when I post that, oh, you actually have to have sex like for it to be a marriage, people are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. It's two things. So one, it is it's the tyranny of the intellectual class against the less intelligent. So
there's that too. And then they have all their like like they kind of know this too. That's the problem. Is like the upper class like liberals kind of like have this in the back of their mind, but then they like assume other people do.
Yeah, and they don't.
It's like this. Yeah, they don't.
You need it. You need it spelled out for stupid people. And when you say like
I'm not a stupid person though. That's why it bothers me. Is I'm not a stupid person.
I know. But see, if you say so, like their advice is like, well, you got to negotiate it with your partner on what's best for you. That works great with two intelligent people in a marriage who have a high degree of emotional intelligence and ability to talk things.
Does it though? I don't even believe that.
It can. It doesn't work great for people. Most people need a template to follow.
I need a template, and I'm pretty mature and intelligent, and so is my husband. And I feel like if I can't do it, like who can't? It's like I don't want to be. I don't know.
Like Sumo, can I give you an example? This is a little personal, but I think I'll give you like half the example anyway. Like I told you and I were kind of talking this week about my skin condition. I just wanted to like real quickly.
But you need have you contacted the fellow I told you to contact?
No, not yet. But
you need to. He can cure you.
I'll
probably.
Think about it. But anyway, so just quickly for your viewers, like or listeners, I got basically addicted. Where you can get addicted to topical steroids. It sounds silly, but like it happens. And then when you try to get off of them, your skin like falls apart, and it's not just your skin, but it's like your whole system. And so the short of it is, and you can read about topical steroid withdrawal, at your pleasure, but it can take like a year to even kind of like get vertical again. I was like literally in a bathtub for all day, like 16 hours a day, and then like weeping all night in my bed. And that was it for 8 months or more. And so part of it is like in a marriage, like, no, it doesn't matter how smart you are, right? Like nobody plans for that when you get married.
Yep.
And like, when I got married, I was like, kind of happy-go-lucky, but I had a sense that like, yeah, the guy is supposed to work and do his best to support the woman and stuff and like, protect her. But I couldn't for a year. So it's like, what are the rules in a case like that? And it's like, if it's prescribed, if it's written somewhere and everybody knows what the rules are, then we can kind of function. But if it's like you're saying, it's just two smart people kind of negotiating it as it happens, it's like, I think it's very difficult. It's much
my point in that is I think a lot of people that told people this understood the unwritten rules. Like they knew to hold meant to have sex and so on. But a lot of people, they did not understand that a large part of the population did not receive that info. And so they're sort of like leaving them out to dry by not. When you take away the explicit traditions, you take away a lot of people's. It's like having a sex talk with your kids. Like a lot of people aren't very good at it, and so it doesn't come across very well. And so society had all these built-in things to like help the parent out. If you are good at it and you know how to communicate that well, then you wouldn't feel much damage from that tradition not being there. And so this is like a lot of very leftist liberal people are very successful in life. They have families that like people in New England, for example, they always vote Democrat. They have great communities. They do not suffer from the effects of what they say because they know better than what they're saying.
That's like, this is like my in-laws were like this.
Yeah.
This is exactly them. But they had the benefit of like growing up in the 50s too.
Yeah.
That's what it was. And it was like, it was kind of like, liberalism for thee, but not for me, basically. Like that was, and that's
that whole stick. Yeah. That's the whole thing. Yeah. In my area, when I lived on Earth, there was a neighborhood. The most liberal neighborhood was always the one that had like a mom staying at home.
Exactly.
And they really do think, most of them, that if people are not living that way, it's their choice and they know best. And it's this refusal to be like, no, actually, we know best and we should tell people what to do.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's really obnoxious, though.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Even to their own children, too,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I can't stand it.
Well, I don't know unfortunately, I must say I don't see much way out of this scenario in the near term.
Mm-hmm.
But Sumo, can I ask you a quick question, like about your, like, I think it's a really interesting thing. I think maybe your kids are almost as old as mine. Like, so I assume you've given some of them the sex talk. Like, but it comes in phases, right? Like there's a sex talk that you can give to like a maybe 8 or 9 year old that isn't the whole story.
Right.
And then like maybe when they're 14, you tell them more of the story. And I guess like what frustrates me is that I feel like I don't know what my neighbors are telling their kids.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Yeah,
Like, do you
right.
see what I mean? So like
Without a
that,
shared cultural thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it takes a village, you know? And so like when it's like you know, when it comes time for like my daughters to negotiate the terms of their marriage with their future husbands, like wouldn't it be nice if there was a like cultural center of gravity about these things rather than just the two of them trying to find each other in
Oh,
the dark?
absolutely. Yeah,
You know what I
absolutely
mean?
would be nice. We're not going
Yeah.
to get it, but it would
Yeah.
absolutely be nice
Yeah.
if that was the case. Um, I don't know that we'll get it in the next century, to be honest
Well,
with
what do you
you.
tell your kids then? Like, what have you told yours?
Um,
Like, do you tell them sex is for marriage and that's that kind of?
well, yes.
Mhm.
And
How old are they? How old are your kids?
so 13, about to be 12 and 8. So
Okay.
they're not quite old enough to have really gone in depth on it, you know. It's sort of um but it's like I try to do it where because it is difficult because I know like whatever I say is not going to be enforced by the culture or the laws, right? Which makes
Right.
what I'm saying sound crazy because they're like,
Right.
well, everything you're saying about marriage and is not anything the culture assumes or the laws assume. So what are you what are you talking about, right? And so you
The
say, well,
ancient secret knowledge.
yeah, it's like it sounds like I'm trying to display. Yeah, exactly, ancient secret
Yes.
knowledge. And so what I have found to be most useful is just being like, listen, um, I found what resonates is like, look, this is what through my experience I have found to be the most correct and the most helpful. And when you deviate from this, it doesn't go so well. And so I sort of do it in a
Yeah.
experience centered way rather than
Yeah.
just like a this is what it is way. Because then that sounds like where are you getting this from?
Right.
You know, and then I back it up with, and this is sort of like how the religion says and so forth, you know.
You see, but I like it's not see the reason I asked actually is because like I think sex is an interesting it's a difficult one to navigate, especially now as a parent. But there's also all the other stuff, right? Like, so with my kids, I'm at that age where like my oldest two have, you know, for example, endured World War II education in their public school classrooms. Or like they're always reading these books about like refugees from Africa and stuff, you know. And part of it is like or like my 12-year-old came home a couple of weeks ago and I guess they watched CNN one or something like it's like CNN for kids at their school in the morning and asked why is there so much concern about a Muslim mayor in New York City?
right.
And so it's like as political consciousness dawns on these kids, it's like, do you see the problem of like I feel like I can't really red pill them because all it will do is make them like totally ostracized in their generation and like almost unable to function. Where whereas like in order to be successful, you have to kind of like stay in the flow with your classmates. Like I just find this really hard to navigate.
Can
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
oh sorry. Can I say something about this? So
Yeah.
Of course.
it's kind of interesting. Like my oldest son, he's 8, and he hears my husband and I talking constantly. Like we just talk and talk and talk. And like he kind of he actually really likes listening to us. And he kind of is like even caught on to like these are not the things you say like in front of people. Like he knows that it's kind of like some of it's kind of like hush hush, I guess.
Mhm.
Just because of the way we talk about it in front of him. Like when I was making my like litany of degeneracy or whatever, he was like, oh, add yoga pants on there. And I was like, how did you even know that? But like he
That's
came up
hilarious.
with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. For our listeners, I think that in no circumstances should you try to overtly red pill your children. I think it will only because I think the red pill is something. I think waking up is a process that you have to come to, and if you try to force it on people, I've never had it go well. This is why I tell people, don't try to wake people up. They have to wake up on their own, and then when they're asking questions, you can be there to help them. But it's not like the way I will do it with my children. I was very gently, whenever something comes up. I'll be like, I forget what something about dinosaurs was on the TV, and I said, when I was a kid, it was a complete opposite of that. And like, I just go into like, oh yeah, they said it was completely different. Again, and I'll say, maybe when you're grown up, it'll be different again, and then I just move on. Just very gently, like, leave the door open a crack if they ever want to walk through it. That's because I think that
that's hard, man, because it seems like you're saying they have to live their time in the cave.
They do. You can't wake up out of the cave. What are you talking? You can't be born out of the cave.
Right. I agree with you. I'm playing, Glaucon in the Republic here, but I do agree with you. But like a lot of people, and sometimes I've said this to Jessica, and I've said this to other friends who are a little bit younger than me, and they like, they're like, there's a very like holy instinct to protect your children from the world. And so like I'm not poo-pooing that, and I'm like, I say do that. But like, at the end of that road, they do have to meet the world.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
So like, yeah, the idea of like raising your kid as a groyper or something is like a mistake, I think.
Yeah. And to some degree, although I am pro homeschooling, some homeschoolers can veer into this by not raising them enough in the world. When then they go into the world, they're like completely overwhelmed by it.
Yeah. Or like, and yeah, it can go any number of. I've seen really good homeschool kids, and
most of them are fine. But if you go too much in that direction, then they get out, and it's like, what in the world,
I know a bunch of really weird homeschool kids like that.
Are they like immorally weird or just like eccentric?
Mostly like really socially awkward.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing: to an extent, being unable to join society is a moral failing. Like, not to say you have to join it in the immorality, but perfect example. So, although yes, there is a lot of, I think most of the women that I knew in college that went clubbing all the time were actually very, very not promiscuous in the sense of having sex with a lot of people. They tended to get, most of them that I knew had one boyfriend through college, maybe a second one, and they either married the first one or the second one. And so, in a way, that model is, how to say, is low-key operating as like is low-key operating as what used to be formalized in like the adults would organize a cotillion and the young men and young women come together and do a dance and they would flirt and everything. Mm-hmm. And then what happened was those that still had an instinct for that said, well, let's just do that at the bar. And a lot of them actually don't have that much. Some of them do, but a lot of them are not as promiscuous as people imagine. And I don't think it's as dire as people fear, but it's also not very good.
I have seen that. I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's almost like a class thing, too.
It is a class thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a class thing. It's like the higher the class, like the fewer the boyfriends, usually.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But I've also seen it go the other way. And the other part that I don't like about it is that it's like, if you're like ambitious or like, I don't know, it just seems like it works well if you're kind of boring, I guess. But if you're like more eccentric, it kind of like preys upon you. I don't know. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I know people that did that, and then they marry like the first or second guy that they ever dated. That like totally happens for lots of people. But I've seen other people and it doesn't, and they kind of just like keep getting into these relationships. And then they like date a guy for 2 years, and then they date a few guys in between that. And then by the time you know it, they're like 34 And it's like, oh, I guess I gotta like find a guy to get married, and sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't, and it just, I don't know, it just feels like that's not, there's got to be a better way.
Well, there's like no structure, right?
There's no structure. Yeah.
There's no roadmap to getting married. Like you're supposed to now what? You just like hop on Bumble or whatever the
Exactly.
latest
It's like,
thing
at
is.
what point do we decide it's like the right time to get married? It's
Yeah.
like,
well, so our culture has given us what our culture's ramp is: find your spouse in college, and if you can't, you're sort of screwed. That's
Right.
like what happens. It's like if you didn't find them in college, like, well, we got nothing else for you.
And it's increasingly hard for
great,
women
but
to pick, I think, in college because it's like not clear at all which men are going to be successful after college. So it's like, so I think a lot of women are kind of like holding off. I remember I used to teach college and I used to see it was like this game of chicken where like the girls were ready to marry,
yeah,
but the boys wanted to like stay boys. Like they were in gym shorts all the time and they were with their boys and they were drinking. And it's like, well, how do you like, it's very, you know what I mean? It's like trying to pick a butterfly based on the caterpillar, like kind of hard to do that. So
no one I knew was getting married in college or like right after college either. Like I just didn't know anyone who was doing that. And it seems like those kind of like serious relationships kind of have like an expiration date too. It's like 2 or 3 years, right? I mean,
my sister-in-law dated a guy for 8 years.
That's crazy though. But then it's like, if
Isn't
you go
that
too
crazy?
long, then that's embarrassing too, you know?
It's so bad. Like, and what the guy, like, and then when he broke up with her, she was like 27. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, what? That's really unacceptable.
It is unacceptable. That's what I'm saying. It's like they should have just been married and they would have been fine, you know?
Yeah.
Someone in her family should have said, listen, you need to force him to propose or you need to move on.
Right.
Yeah.
Right after like a year or two, right? And we don't have a cultural language of doing that. That feels like encroaching on people, you know, and so forth and so on.
Interestingly, her dad died.
See, maybe.
Yeah. So maybe he would have, but
you know, I mean, my wife and I met when I was 19 and she had just turned 20, and we've been together ever since. So
well, there you go. That's what I'm saying. It's like,
yeah, like
that's exactly what like all the baby boomers did.
Yeah.
Almost all of them. That's what my parents did. That's what Godward's parents did. Is that what your parents did too?
I think my parents met in not a college age. I guess they did meet in college. Yeah, they did.
So they were probably like 20, 21. Like it was.
Somewhere in there. Yeah, for sure. And then, so it. So that's why, like, people want. If this is the problem with people being like, you know, when people talk about women in education and all that stuff, and people complain about it and how it's affecting birth rates, like that is the only place that society has for women to meet men to marry right now. You know, it's like a crazy setup, but and there should be something better, but there isn't.
College? You mean?
Yeah, college.
Yeah.
Like this after college. It's like, well, you're on your own.
Or like the myth is kind of like you're going to meet your husband, but then the under myth is actually, you know, this is the red pill version of it. Actually, she's just going to go ride the carousel for 4 years and ruin herself at college. And so like as a dad, you're like, do I want to send my daughter to college or not? It's, you know what I mean? Like,
here's the thing is that actually, I think in large part, you can't if your daughter is that sort of person, she's just going to be that sort of person. Yeah. And there's not a lot you can do about it. But most of them don't want to be that. I think don't be too scared of that, but also know that this is, if that's who they are, that's what they're going to do.
But you know, like, okay, we don't have to go on the whole college thing, but it's like, it's a lot of money too. And so
it is a lot of money.
So like there's this like entryist barrier to even getting
married. And there's now fewer
happens.
Men going than women too. And it was like that even when I was there. And my husband didn't even graduate from college.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I met him after college, but
yeah, I guess I am in a bit of a bubble in that regard, in that me and pretty much all, with the exception of one, of the adult friends that I am still close with, met their spouses in college. and we all went to the same college, and we're like, I know all of my friends' wives when they met each other, you know, and so it's sort of it's not what I'm saying. My situation is very unique all around. You had to be thrown in a body bag to get there. So I don't know that there is I guess so. What would you like for a solution to be, or can there be one? We've diagnosed the problem. What is the solution?
Well,
I don't think there is one.
Okay, real quick, my take would be that there should be some kind of like, culture or ministry at the center of a civilization that like kind of keeps track of these things. What?
You mean like a church?
Well, yeah, like a church.
Yeah.
And like, so whether you call it a church or not, like there should be a kind of like we called it a roadmap, or like there should be like ceremonies, there should be rites of passages, civic stuff, like Rome had this stuff where you would have to do these things at a certain age and on certain days.
That
And
sounds no.
it just seems normal to me. Like
that sounds like a church or religion though.
Well, it's like it's a church, but it's also like the church. Like for example, I know that the Puritans used to have they had their own like courtship rituals that involved bars and drinking, by the way, and like,
also bundling. Are you familiar with bundling?
No.
What Puritans would do is they would take a respective boy and girl, and they would wrap the young man in a large sack, and then put another sack over that, and then using belts buckle him into it so that his body could not come out, and any foul play happen. And then they would leave the girl alone in the room, and that's how they would get to know each other. And
hold on one second, guys, I'll be right back.
Yeah. And from all accounts, there was a lot of over the sack action happening.
Well, because I think
the Puritans they knew it was going to happen.
Of course.
And so it's like what you need is the
structure. That's what I was going to say is like,
you need a society that doesn't deny, because what happens is people want to purity only culture wants to deny the animal sexuality, which is not going to happen.
Right. They want to pretend they'll never grow up. They'll be 13 forever.
Yeah, and then they will have sex in a purely platonic fashion to reproduce children and all this stuff. Not gonna happen. And then the other side is like, just be free about it, right? And what you need is you need a controlled chaos.
Yes, exactly.
You need a controlled chaos of it, which is what the Puritans were able to succeed in, I think.
Right. And I think like, in the old days they had I just think it was better than that. Like they had like proms and homecomings, but they also had, there were like, I don't know, maybe like you'd meet somebody at the football game. I'm almost thinking of my childhood, but by the time I got into college, it was literally kind of just like, well, you just go to the bar or the club and try to like,
you're left on your own.
Do there? Like I heard this thing the other day about how like in the club, and this is, I mean, I don't know if you guys went to clubs, but it's just any big room with, lots of people and loud music. And they said that like, they used to play the strobe lights and the pumping music and stuff. And that basically it would spike your cortisol, of course, because you can't see, it's threatening, and that like, and then of course they sell you alcohol to cope with that. And then your judgment is all bad, and it's like this can't be the right way. Like this just can't be the right way to arrange.
It occurs to me talking about the Puritans and how they did it. Imagine that. Imagine an American dad or mom doing this in the year 2025, where you say
sacking, or what'd you call it? Bagging,
bundling. So imagine you lock your daughter or your son in a room with a person of the opposite sex. And you they're going to just sit there and sort of dry hump through the night, and you go sit and you go tend the fire, right? And that is like that's very awkward. But what they were doing was taking an active, and this sounds perverse, right? It does sound perverse, and this is why I know it goes back to the thing we're talking about before you got on, being willing to look at something openly and be like, okay, we have to take an active role in a sense in our child's developing sexuality and make sure it doesn't go off the rails. And that sounds that sounds like a perverse thing. And so what I find this in my own relationship with my wife, what my wife's mother did for us is after she had met me, and I guess I had her seal of approval, is she made a do not disturb thing for my wife's dorm room or her apartment door that she could put on there that would lock it from the outside and let people know not to come in, that I didn't even know my wife had, that she would put on there when I was my wife's mother was doing a facilitated like guidance of her daughter's sexuality and like towards someone she approved of. Yeah. Rather than a complete hands-off thing is crazy. And then trying to pretend it's not going to happen also doesn't work. So what the culture needs to do and what parents have to kind of do is say, well, this is going to happen. And how do we, without being weird about it, steer this in a productive way? And so a lot of like prom culture, this is what happened. But think about it. In prom culture, what started happening in the 80s and 90s? They said, don't dance too close to each other. In the 50s, they were like full on groping each other while they were dancing. Because the parents were like, this is what's got to happen. Here's a controlled environment for that to occur. And I think part of it is people got scared of taking on that role of like, we need a space for this blossoming sexuality to happen and to go in a good direction. Because just pretending it's never going to happen is not going to work. And telling them to figure it out themselves is also disastrous. So, we have to take a more active role. Yeah. And I think that society has to get back to that if anything's going to get fixed. But I don't know how to do that.
Hi, sorry, I was my baby woke up.
That's okay. I'll recap for you. I was saying that what I think has to happen is parents as a society have to take an active role in the controlled chaos of their children's sexuality, which sounds perverse, but isn't, because I was talking about the Puritans, and what they would do is they'd wrap the young man in a bundle so that the woman couldn't touch him, but then they would leave the girl alone in the room with him, and there was just it was well understood that they were just going to dry hump through the night and do all these perverse things. And that's what the Puritans would do, because they knew that, look, sexuality is going to happen. We shouldn't not take her. If we let them do it all on their own, it's going to be chaos. But we also can't we can't pretend it's not going to happen either. So what we have to do is have a controlled environment for it to happen. I was telling Godward what my wife's mother did for us is she made things to like block up her daughter's door when I was over there, so that basically no one would interfere with us after I had her seal of approval, I suppose. And so her mother was actively, like when we were like 20, going to her when I wasn't around saying, you need to make sure that you and he have a kid at some point. She was actively like getting her hands in there to manipulate this toward an end that she thought was good. And that's what people have. If you just are laissez-faire, do whatever, people are not going to make good decisions. And if you just pretend like it's not going to happen at all, this is the problem with this is the purity side of it, where you just say, just save it till, we're not going to really just save it. Like, it's not expecting teenagers to not have sexual exploration with each other and to hold off until they're like 25 and they finally decide to get married after college. It's just not going to work.
Well, yeah, 25 is too old, but I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I think people did wait till they were like 9. I mean, I was 18 when I lost my virginity, so it's like,
yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that, like, but I mean, like, when you put it, you should have to know it's going to happen and just say, we're going to make some. This is what they used to do with cotillions and balls. And I was telling Godward, I think things started to go off the rails kind of when they started to get a little too prissy about it. Like proms, they were like, now they're like, don't dance too close to each other, But if you look at like 50s proms, they're practically groping each other all through the night. And this was like the parents being like, okay, we know this has to happen. Here's a space for it. go.
I guess I don't really care that much as long as they know they're gonna like get married. That's what it is with me. Like just as long as like they're gonna get married, like fine. But it's like if it's oh no, we're just gonna like do this and then like move on.
Yeah, you have to do it. You have to encourage them towards that and like try and no one wants to do it, but like you have to steer your children as best you can towards someone you find acceptable and then encourage that all you can.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And people find that that's a big responsibility. And then if it goes wrong, then it's like I messed it up. You know, there's all these complicated emotions about it, but that may be the best way to handle it. I'm not sure, but I don't think as a culture we can expect any big changes anytime soon.
No, doesn't seem like it.
Oh, I do. I think it'll change 5 years from now. That's
you
the problem.
Do.
There will be a new technology and there will be some totally new routine for it. I mean, just as there has been in our like dating. I never use dating apps. It changes literally everything. It's totally crazy. And I mean, you can't even like you can't conceive how different it is for me to tell my kids like I don't you know what I mean? Like I can't guide them. I have no, it's like good luck. Like I don't even know. What do you say? Like don't swipe too much or like like there's just no it doesn't even correlate to my own experience. You know, so yeah, I think like I mean, I'm not saying it'll be better or worse. I don't know, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like sometimes you know how like you see
Hello.
Thing like that reemerging where men are just like tired of watching their daughters, used and discarded, and so they decide like, no, like you want to date my daughter, you're going to come to our house and meet her here, and that's that, I could see stuff like that happening.
Perhaps. I mean, it would probably be a net benefit. I have trouble seeing that happening in the wider culture, but maybe.
Well, I mean, you're right. I guess, but like, I just feel sad that like the way we like, there's not even the cotillion ball. That's what I'm saying. Like we've gotten rid of all structure, and it just feels like what even are the rules? The girls are
they just throw the girls to the wolves. It's like
and like honestly, there's no even in the old days there used to be the expectation of like a shotgun marriage. Like okay, like Sumo, like what you're saying, like kids are gonna sometimes get carried away with the sex and then get pregnant, and then it's like now it's marriage time.
No, now you just get an abortion.
But now you just get an abortion, or you're already on birth control because you're 14 years old at the doctor and they tell you should get on the birth control pill. And so like sex itself becomes this, it's just
meaningless
it's not what it was historically, whereas like,
but it still is that. It's just been like distorted, and people think they can be like godlike and do whatever they want, and it doesn't really work.
Like the whole narrative of like women being empowered by the pill and now they can just go have sex with a bunch of guys. Well, it's not like, is it though? Or is that whole thing kind of a psyop, and it's just like maybe good for the pharmaceutical company? And like I don't even think it's good for men, but like clearly men are just like using the women.
I don't even think it is good for men though. I think it's good for men to just like be married and like be with the same woman. But isn't that what men kind of want anyway?
Yeah, but Godward, to your point, I mean, and you're just there was a lot more abortion in the 50s than you reckon too. I mean, things are bad, but things have kind of always been bad. And I know it wasn't like I think you have. I mean, abortion like there was more abortion now for sure, but not nearly as much more as you would expect. A lot of, I mean, women had all sorts of ways of giving their daughters abortions and inducing abortions, and it's very uncomfortable to talk about. And I think one of the reasons, like this is what I was going back to, is people are just kind of being honest about it, which is in some ways an improvement. Because if it's happening in the shadows and no one's talking about it versus you're doing it in the open, I don't know. I mean, at least one is without hypocrisy. So, but there, I mean, like in 19, in 1954, it's estimated. Now, who knows how good this estimation is? There were over 1 million abortions in the United States, which is a lot considering the population rate.
Yeah.
Now, is that accurate? I don't know, but it's certainly not super rare either, you know. And so,
I feel like the cultural consensus was that it's bad, and that like, but now you get like, Sex in the City. It's almost like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
It's like this disgusting kind of culture of. I mean, I sound like E. Michael Jones or something, but like,
I mean, it is
ministry
bad
of death. You know,
it
like
is super bad. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that it's also like, if we look back at the past and we say like, well, back then, you know, they didn't just get an abortion. It's like, well, they did though. They were just getting abortions sometimes if she got knocked up by a guy they didn't like. And, you know, that was just.
I mean, okay, sex has always been a problem. I'll give you that. Like, I understand what you're saying. Like, yeah, history spins around. So I don't have
like okay, as an example, how many mixed race babies do you think were aborted because the father was black? A lot. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot, you know, and still today for that very same reason, I bet it's quite a lot. So it's like, or because he was poor and you were like a New England, you know, or whatever, like,
and 100% black,
or 100% black. Exactly. And so
true.
I just caution against thinking that people were used to be a lot better. Or because that sets your calibrations up like we could make it a lot better, and I don't know. I just don't know how well we can.
Well, it's not like I'm not trying to morally judge them or us or anything. I just guess I want, like, you know, the best possible future for my kids and grandkids, and it's like it just feels scary out there. Like from when I talk to like Zoomer kids, or like even younger millennials, they feel confused about what the goal is and what the rules are, and like there's a lot of that talk from men about how like marriage itself is just a ripoff or it's like a trap. And that's just all seems tragic to me. Like it's really the basis of civilization, you know. So we need to, like, I don't know, figure out something maybe. But
it's the same reason that gay people getting married is the same thing that's happening with why there are fat ladies on Sports Illustrated magazine, because no one reads magazines anymore, so it doesn't matter. All of the pretty attractive people went to Instagram, so they're trying to do something to make you think about this magazine again, and by causing a scandal, so maybe you buy it out of hate. In a similar way, the institution of marriage is all but dried up for numerous reasons. And so now they're like, well, who cares? Just let anyone get married. Is really, if people still had a vision of marriage as like a thing culturally, then obviously it would be like, well, no, it's for procreation and children and like families uniting and all this other stuff and religious ties and uniting of helping each other get to heaven and all these things.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, but that went away. That kind of threw that out the window when you started with divorce, you know, and then you threw that out the way when you started with premarital sex and so forth. So we're like 7-8 steps down this road.
Yeah.
You know, we're like 7-8 steps down this road of, and so absent, I mean, the best thing that we could do, which I have deep trouble imagining, but who knows, is we reform the actual laws of the country around divorce to reinforce, like, you know, that it should be like a more,
or just education. Like, I think
just telling people.
Told people, if people knew that, like,
that's what I think it is. I think it's like 90% how people are catechized is catechized, even in a secular sense. Like,
but yes, I mean, I agree. So you're coming at it from someone who never heard these things until you were an adult, right? And I think that you're saying, and I believe you would have acted differently had you known. Yeah. From my point of view, growing up with people that were told, a lot of them acted just like you acted had they never known. So I don't know how much of it would change. I mean,
maybe I wouldn't. I guess I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah.
I did pretty much what my mom told me to do.
Yeah.
and it didn't really work very well. So
Right.
I mean, I guess I'm fine, Like,
yeah. How does she feel with you converting to Christianity?
How is she? I don't think she likes it, but
Right.
she likes me and she likes my family. So
is she a practicing Jewish lady?
Sort of. I mean,
Sort of.
My family's pretty secular. They're just like culturally.
I can hear through my bones Smokestack's anger at this, like his desire to say many things as he's listening and screaming what do you no, it's just, no, and yeah, I could hear him, and he's got something to say about a Jewish family, and he just wishes he wasn't dead. Unfortunately, he is. Anything else you wanted to speak on tonight? I've kept you longer than we said.
I don't think so. I think
Godward wanted me to make sure that you knew the Earth was not a ball. All I'll say is, why don't you feel it moving?
Why don't you feel like you're moving when you're in an airplane?
Well, you do when you change directions, and you're always changing directions on the Earth.
Okay.
So you do not feel constant velocity, but you do feel acceleration, and acceleration is a change in speed or direction. And by that definition, the Earth is always accelerating, so you should always feel it. Just like you feel a car, if you take a turn in a car, you feel it. I'm just saying, think about it.
It's happening so slowly, though, that you can't feel it.
It's happening at 1,000 miles per hour. So that's pretty fast.
Wait, maybe we can feel it. Maybe this is what it feels like.
Yeah. Maybe we're just used to it.
I don't know. It seems awful strange that, you know how when you take a turn in a car, if you have anything dangling from your rearview mirror, it will sort of tilt to the side. Nothing tilts to the side. Everything hangs straight down. It's just a bit weird.
But what if the circle it's making is so big that even though it's going so fast, it's like each little turn around the circle is so small?
That's a good, Kavi. What if we invent big Earth theory? It's bigger.
Yeah, there you go.
It's bigger than people say it is.
Well, even if that actually doesn't matter though, because if you're traveling at 1,000 miles per hour, which is the rate you take, it wouldn't matter if the circle was. The centrifugal force would be the same.
Well, you're spinning at 1,000 miles. You're actually traveling at 66,600 miles per hour around the sun.
That's just around.
And then
the
sun is whipping around, and the galaxies are flying apart.
And you're tilting, you're wobbling. So there's 6 different axes of motion at tremendous speeds, of which 1,000 miles an hour is the slowest. And yet, if you set a cup of water on your counter, it will not ripple an iota.
And Jesus will be upset if you're masturbating.
Just see, do you see when you zoom out and you put it like that, that is why everyone believes things are meaningless, because you're traveling through an infinite nothing, going nowhere for no reason. Right? And so that's the ultimate level psyop.
I don't know. I always kind of
no, Jessica's upset about
it. Sorry. No, I was looking at something else. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta go in a minute too, but I always thought that the big universe explanation was actually kind of awe-inducing, the pale blue dot or whatever.
Yeah, I thought that too. I always thought you look at all these galaxies and stuff, then that's just evidence of a creator.
Yeah, it's just awesome. Wow, that's a fucking all for me. That's cool.
Yeah. But, well, anyway, thank you for coming on, Jessica. I hope you think about the non-movement of the Earth.
Okay. I will.
That will clear up a lot of things for you.
Yep.
And Godward, thank you for coming on again.
All right, you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Right, see you both later.
Bye.
Bye.
Let's see, Cavi, are you still here with me?
Did
you see what happened? Did you see what happened? That was a prime example.
Of what?
I started telling someone about this is what I've talked about, the shutdown or when started telling someone about things about this, and she said she had to not listen. Subconsciously, she had to shut it out. Say,
to the flat Earth stuff. Yeah.
Well, she had to say, "I'm not. I'm sorry. I was looking at something else." She couldn't even hear. She had to. This happens in real life. When you present someone with it, and this is what I mean when I go back to we are deceived, but we choose to be deceived. When you encounter a truth that you do not want to hear, you just shut down. And it is I've watched it happen in real time. When I was explaining to someone 9/11 one time, and I talked about, well, there was building 7. They went, it was just like they shut down, and they were like, I can't hear. And then I moved on. They said, what? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. And they were sitting there right in front of me. And so the deceptions are there. People are deceived. But also, if you were 100% true to yourself, nothing could deceive you. That's it, everybody. I hope you learned something. Go read the book of the It, if you want to be disturbed, but also awakened to a very interesting view of life. And I hope everyone is well. I hope to be back on the orbital space platform forthwith, and I will tell you about my adventures with someone that worked actual magic. So until next time, peace out.